welcome back. It's a brand new season of CGL.
This is just an absolute treat. These players are so damn good.
The talent on these teams is undeniable. Everybody on every team right now is making plays.
It's going to be an exciting start to the season, and it'll just get better from here on out.
We're about to step to a whole new era of Overwatch esports. So much exciting action is happening here on CGL that you do not want to miss.
Look who's starting it all off. It's Raven. No one necessarily figure out what is the right way to go just yet.
What a nice roll through from Payne. He's just gonna solidify everything from Mythos.
Does come back, and Arsario gets the mech, but I don't need a mech. I'll kill 4 anyway.
This is just a highlight reel for Arsario right now.
They're making a statement in the EU Masters here.
This patch is still incredibly fresh. There's so much to learn, so much to change about the way we play the game.
NKC, but the shatter is colossal.
Let's get it going.
Trades keep coming through. Laura is gonna be able to find these shots true.
Idu on the overclock with 2.
Here comes the Nablet immediately goes back to fine skills, slicing and dicing their way through 2-3. So back and forth.
Welcome, folks. Great to have you here with us. It is Console Gaming League. We are here with a fantastic match on our hands here today, back in our EU division for our Diamond Series division here. Yeah, we're looking at 2 real powerhouses here between Gelderse Geitjes and Breizhurect. We're looking really excited between these 2 teams here. It is Rags and Megalas bringing you all the action. Megalas, how are we feeling about this match here today?
I'm not gonna lie, props to you for being able to pronounce these team names, because I was just gonna go with I was gonna go with GG, and thankfully I had Geo last time to remind me that they were called Breizhurect. But yeah, it's a grand finals. You know, you got to be hyped. Mid-season tournament, you obviously got that extra win on the line here, especially with how Breizhurect was talking, getting cast their last game, a little bit spicy. They're simply ready for this matchup here, so it should be a good one.
Yeah, both of these teams obviously have been rolling through the bracket getting here. They both looked really dominant for the whole series long. And of course, it's only the mid-season tournament here, but they've really made a strong showing of it. I think only about 1 map lost on each of these teams here for their, previous matches all told. So really strong performances coming into this one here. So I'm very curious to see, who ends up being the dominant stakeholder here. We're really looking at teams who've not faced a great deal of challenge getting to this point. So yeah, it's going to be a real clash of what are functionally 2 titans here in our EU Diamond division.
Exactly. Somebody's got to come away with that championship, and somebody's got to experience that first loss of the season here, which could set up for some beautiful moments later on. But like you said, it's just going to be a very interesting matchup between these 2 squads here. It'll be sort of the first real litmus test for both of them to sort of come in and see exactly how they match up against each other specifically. Because again, you can roll against all these other teams, but for all we know, one team just has a specific style, specific strategy that they really have fine honed and are able to just sort of push their way through the match.
Yeah, it's really a question of who forces the other team to bend first. Whether or not you can force your playstyle upon your opponent and have to force them to meet you in the mirror, or just try and hard counter you as much as possible. Again, like you said, Megalas, they haven't faced a whole lot of struggles getting to this point. So that could sometimes work to a team's detriment, especially if they're coming into this very confident. A single early map loss is, of course, one of them is going to eat. Could absolutely affect your mental state. So it's going to be a question of if they can weather that storm and force their way through the rest of the series here. I believe it's the first of 3 series, so we have a potential of going all the way to 5 here. So curious to see how far we get into this.
Be very interesting to see, but for it to go the distance, you have to find somewhere to start here. And as you see by the lovely background, we are heading to Busan first to start the series off. And it's always such a fun place to start off in terms of the control maps, right? Just because, there's obviously control maps like Oasis where you can pilot a comp mostly the same way all the way through, but Busan really has 3 distinct submaps with 3 distinct playstyles that are beneficial to them. So it's interesting to see sort of what teams end up cooking up in the kitchen for what compositions they want to run across the map, right? From downtown to Mecha Base to even the Sanctuary. You have a lot of different options, a lot of versatility you can run in these compositions. So I'm really excited to see what these teams end up bringing out here.
Yeah, I'm really hyped to get to see exactly what the flavor of it is, because again, you often see a lot of the older control maps the teams want to take us to, but here the map is decided for us. We are going to Busan first. You do not have the luxury of falling back on Lijiang Tower teams. I'm very sorry. You cannot just play the classics, play the hits, even though Busan has been around for quite a long time now. These days, it's still in my mind is nowhere near as old, of course, as your classics of original Overwatch 1 days, your Lijiang Towers, even your Ilios. So very excited to see the different options they have presented themselves here. Like you said, there's so many different playstyles to be had here, whether you want to run dive on the city center, whether you want to play in the more confined spaces of Mecha Base, or if you want to run a classic ball composition around the sanctuary. There's just so many options available to these teams here in a way that you don't get necessarily for a lot of other control maps.
Exactly, but the biggest thing about those options is just sort of what tools you have available to you. Is going to quick look at who we've got on both of these squads here ready to come up. Magical, woohoo! There we go. For the side of GG here, we got Matamata and Silver on that DPS line. Oh no, Senpai on the tank, and then Happy, Iha, and Bum on the supports. Last time I get to cast these guys, I believe it was the same exact lineup. Might have been a different support in the mix, but overall this squad, they know what they want to do for the most part when they come into these matches. Very decisive regardless of what heroes they end up on, and it's very interesting to see because, again, being decisive can generally be the difference maker in these lower elo tournaments.
Yeah, of course, and getting to look at our opposing side that we have here for you. This is the only half of the equation, as we do have Breizhurect here with AKZ and Rodark on your DPS line. We also have Captain Irwan on your tank, of course, and Dr. Unicorns and Taranex for your support line here. I would certainly expect to see a good bit of Genji Sojourn here in the mix, as really looking as good as ever here. Of course, there's plenty of room to play D.Va on essentially her home map here, so yeah, excited to see how these teams want to approach this. Of course, we're just looking at favorite heroes here. None of this is a guarantee going into it, but of course on Control you're expecting Lucio, you're expecting something to play comfortably alongside that. Usually it's the Kiriko, but there's always some options to run, when you talk about getting into the ban stage of things, but also if you have, sort of a pocket composition that you think can play spoiler to, especially what these two dominant teams have been running.
Yeah, and again, I want to highlight, getting to catch that Breizhurect match versus Goon Squad here, specifically AKZ, with that Genji. That profile picture is not a joke, right? The Genji was absolutely prolific from AKZ, sort of being able to take over the match in a very dominant way here. So unless it gets banned out, I'm very much expecting AKZ to run that one further here. But as we start into the bans, we are looking at GG here. And obviously, you already talked about it, Rags. There's a lot of different ways you can go with these bans early on here. It could be a target ban, it could be just generally something you don't want to play against, but it seems as though it's going to start with the target ban and take D.Va off of her hometown.
Yeah, so yeah, clearly have a strong reading that Breizhurect want to be running this D.Va here. That hover was not just a joke, that was not just a favorite, that is clearly something that they're very comfortable with. So not having access to that D.Va, not having access to your primary tank in the first map of the series, I mean, that's tough. That's certainly tough to work with here. So we're going to see how the answer comes across, only having damage and support to choose from here. If you want to throw a massive spanner, I always love to see a support ban on these control maps because it can really affect, and yeah, early on we get that, it's going to be about T-spanned out for Breizhurect.
Yeah, and this sort of takes away that sturdy healing that you normally see from a lot of these compositions, right? And it forces you to be a little bit more faster paced, right? A team like GG maybe wanted to be a little bit more slower on some of these brawl compositions and have that reliable healing that a Baptiste can provide. So absolutely a good shot from Breizhurect here to fire back in terms of these targeted bans. But again, this is all going to come across the entirety of Busan here, so a multitude of comps are still completely available to both of these squads here. And I'm very interested to see exactly what we're going to get now that both teams have sort of had a bit of a crutch removed.
Yeah, there's still plenty of room to run your classic compositions on control. Still Lucio and Kiriko in the mix. Of course, as we mentioned, that Genji is still available for AKZ. So expect to see some pop-off moments if that is what they want to run with on their side. But there's still plenty of flexibility, as you're saying there. There's room enough to run Winston, for example, on your city center, on downtown. And of course, on the more closed-in mecha base, that Reinhardt hover that we saw on the side of Gelderse, that's certainly possible. That is not out of the question. But yeah, not exactly in the most obvious spot right now. I mean, you're more likely to see a Zarya pick, for example, to run down that rush. But again, as common as ball is on the more open climbs, you can still see a little bit of ball being played as well on mecha base. So if these teams want to run something a little bit zany, a little bit more off the wall, try and really throw their opponents off early on in the series, that's more than possible coming into Busan.
Exactly. And again, it's just one of those things of just having those different options here. You know, we are down in Diamond, right? This isn't going to be meta all the time that you're definitely going to be expecting here. These teams, if you've got somebody who's very prolific on a specific character, generally speaking, you can run them to great success across a variety of these maps and things like that in places that you would not expect. And that in and of itself can throw these teams off kilter and off base here. So as we're starting into downtown here, it seems as though both teams, at least in the spawn room, are going to be hovering over some very brawly compositions here. No dive just yet. Both teams with a Wu Yang in the back line to provide those exceptional heals as well as a good source of damage, sort of the substitute Baptiste in this situation, if you will.
Yeah, really excited to see them running out. Of course, each of them has the opposing speed hero on their support line. Here we've got Happy Yeehaw on that Lucio and Tyranex on that Juno there. Ono Senpai, of course, is here on that Reinhardt. And you're going to have a little bit of difficulty here for Captain Erwan on this Junker Queen. And yeah, immediately gets sectioned off by that fantastic Maywall out from Mata. No chance at all for the tank to get anywhere from Breizhurect. And that's an early fight win for Gelderse. But honestly, it might be a little bit too quick here. There's still a good few seconds before that point unlocks.
Yeah, and it was just the Junker Queen that goes down, so nothing really catastrophic here. Wall first cap's going to go over to GG. They're going to be able to get right back into this one for the side of Breizhurect here. And it's just, again, about getting the Junker Queen in without getting segmented by the Maywall here, and then being able to execute after that.
AKZ looking hungry here on this Genji, of course, one to watch for as the series goes on here. Immediately finds out Bum on that Wooyoung. Nothing at all you can do against the phase of this Genji here. And of course, you've got Silver. It's also devastatingly trying to duel here, but unfortunately gets found out. And yeah, so the rest of GG are just around in time to keep everyone else alive. Only losing Bum in that fight, bending just a little bit, but not breaking by any means.
Yeah, Wu Yang will be back to the fight momentarily here, so nothing awful for them just yet here. Breizhurect seems to be wanting to try to wrap this left side of the map here and be able to execute from here, but once that initial speedrun goes away, they don't really have any push beyond that.
Yeah, and Rodark gets found out immediately. No chance for them to really move, nowhere to rotate around, just like you're saying there, Mega. Unfortunately, though, Bum and Ono Senpai both get found out here. Captain Erwan been allowed to live for just a little bit too long, as GG are finding themselves now on the back foot defending here this objective. Silver just barely getting out for a moment when that Junker Queen just piles directly down on top of you. Not much more you can do in the face of such carnage there. And finally, Breizhurect make their stay on the point.
And again, you talked about it right there, just Captain Erwan just being allowed to live just a little bit too long in that fight. Coming into the next one, though, good ultimates being built up on both sides of this coin here. I'm specifically going to be looking at the Earth Shatter, though, but I think this fight, before it can even begin, really, is a little bit of Wu Yang on Wu Yang violence.
Yeah, it's exactly the sort of thing we're expecting out of this brand new here. Again, I say brand new, it's been like 2 months at this point, but AKZ cleaning up Happy Yeehaw at the back end of this engagement here. That's another stagger. There's plenty more time in the bank here for Breizhurect.
Plenty of time, and still, again, more tools being built up for both squads here. This potentially could be a heavy ult investment from both of these teams. You know, obviously you have Breizhurect trying to maintain hold as long as they can.
That blade comes through, and the resounding barrier coming out of Happy Yeehaw's just the thing to keep the team alive as Ono Senpai lays down with the Shatter. You called it. There are so many ults coming out in this fight here. The Blizzard as well added in on the side of GG, and that is a brutal sideswipe coming through onto Rodark as Ono Senpai gets some much-needed energy out of their system. Cleaning out Dr. Unicorn at the back end as well, and with that Tidal Blast out, spending nearly everything, GG are back in control.
Yeah, I mean, it was looking solid, at least in terms of the ult trade for Breizhurect for a moment, but then they chose to commit the orbital ray and a few other tools. So now, after the ult banks have been drained ever so slightly here, you're going to be looking at the overclock from Silver versus the rampage coming out from Captain Air 1. Lucky thing is there's no Kiriko, no cleansing Suzu, so this rampage can get ripped.
Yeah, a solid anti-heal directly onto, yeah, that Rampage doing so much work out from Captain Erwan. Ono Senpai falling down before you can really do much other than hold your shield up against it. And finally cleaning up the last members on the side of GG. Breizhurect, I mean, that was a clean engagement out there from that Junker Queen.
Absolutely massive, and now you're going to see Breizhurect try to hold forward here. They realize that Silver definitely has this overclock built up at this point, but the overclock needs space to be able to function here. So as long as you see AKZ contesting these high grounds and the rest of the team holding forward, then there will be no space for the Sojourn to work.
Rodark has the Death Blossom, absolutely massive in this tight corridor, cleaning up the squishier members of GG. No chance at all for them to get away, and just with that single application of one ultimate, they have brought this one down to the wire.
Exactly, we're going to be heading towards final fight territory here, but Ono Senpai has built up another Earth Shatter here, so you can't hold this choke as recklessly as you were before for Breizhurect here. They have to be able to respect this Earth Shatter.
Ono Senpai making a way all the way to point there. That overclock out from Silver is trying to find a clean kill here, but unfortunately, you've already lost your tank. That Shatter getting no work done at all whatsoever. Breizhurect still falling down, though, losing their tank as well, as Rodark is still alive and hungry on the objective here. We're really down more and more bodies. There's so few people left alive to fight this one out, but the numbers favor Breizhurect here, and they are enough to hold down the objective, clean up the remaining members of GG, and they will take the first round, 92-100. That's close.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not the full 99, but it's about as close as you can get. It's there in spirit, and it's exactly what we're expecting from these two squads, right? Being able to go against each other at this level and just constantly have this same level of aggression here. So now, you know, heading into the Sanctuary part, we're going to have to see if either team wants to swap up their compositions. We already see, at least in the spawn room for the time being, the side of GG is going to be, you know, back to their old tried and true here with the Mei and the Reinhardt here. But, you know, that signature decision that I saw from them previously when watching them, it seemed to be a little bit lacking in those little moments of hesitation. It's where Breizhurect was really getting in there and getting aggressive. So for the side of GG, you got to be a little more decisive on those Mei walls and being able to execute on them after.
Absolutely. As we're rotating here around the left-hand side here for Breizhurect, we're trying to have our little small fight here in the tiny room on the side of the objective. And Ono Senpai gets Captain Erwan out early. I'm seeing shades of the previous map already here. Losing your tank first, of course, is brutal for Breizhurect, but not having Bum is going to sort of hamstring a little bit of your healing here for GG. So they are going to be careful about this as they rotate towards the objective. Rodark is here on this Reaper yet again, hungry for a little bit of Reinhardt blood. And Tarnek's doing the very best to try and keep everyone alive, just manages to do so, get out of harm's way here. As you do have Bum back in the engagement here, just trying to heal up Ono Senpai. That tank falling so low, and the Reaper is exactly positioned just to take full advantage of that massive health pool of that Reinhardt. And it looks as though, despite the early gains in their favor, GG are going to fall down before Breizhurect.
Yeah, and again, you know, you talked about it, right? While they were able to execute and take Captain Airborne out of that initial fight, just the loss of Bum there, nobody was able to really get healed up. And so now that damage being consistent and being dealt time and again here. That being said, this could be a good opening with Bum getting that first pick.
Yeah, an early kill into AKC, I mean, that is so much of their lethality potential off the board here, and losing your tank immediately afterwards, I mean, that's got to spell the end of a fight and a hasty retreat here. Only Rodark here on the objective does get frozen up and found out by Matamata, so yeah, no chance of that stagger coming anywhere but in a way of pain.
And so now you're looking towards this next fight. Ono Senpai has built up to an Earth Shatter here. We know how devastating this can be, you know, but there are a ton of ultimates for both squads here. And again, so I just like to focus on this Earth Shatter just because there's no shields, nothing really stopping it for the side of Breizhurect here. So once that hammer comes down, it should connect with anybody it wants to.
Yeah, that Maywall as well, just trying to find a nice funnel for the rest of the team. Breizhurect gets totally caught out there. Dr. Unicorn, rather, found out and pinned by Ono Senpai, and that Shatter can just be as wonderful as you want it to be. Completely no chance for them to defend against it. And on the back of two ultimates, I mean, GG are gotta be feeling pretty good about that one.
Yeah, you might want that Mail back, if I'm being perfectly honest. Wasn't really necessary. The Earth Shatter did the most of the cleanup there, but now Breizhurect coming into this one with an ult advantage.
Yeah, that shout and the Tidal Blast layered over that Genji Blade. Such a devastating combination here. And we do have the beat coming down on the side of GG as well, so everyone's able to weather that storm for just a little bit longer there. Rodark falling down early on and losing Captain Erwan yet again. We're really not seeing nearly as much value from this Queen on this second point here.
No, and I mean, again, it's from GG sort of playing forward here, being very decisive, and that's a beautiful stagger as well from some beautiful icicles. So now, again, you're holding the space. Silver's going to have plenty of opportunity to use this overclock here. That being said, Breizhurect is coming in with some powerful tools of their own, especially looking at the Rampage. Again, no Cleansing Suzu, no Kiriko in sight, means that this Rampage, whoever it connects on, is going to be no healing.
Yeah, like we saw in downtown, that can be an immediate fight ender here if they are not careful on the side of GG. Ono Senpai falling dangerously low, has to play around this corner a bit more effectively and does get that benefit of the buffed healing out there from Bum, but turns out the anti-heal is just a little bit too powerful to deal with in the exact same situation. If you get found out on the wrong side of that Mei wall with so much damage with a massive anti-heal from that Rampage. Now, 99% here though for GG. They've got plenty of room to work with, but Breizhurect, I mean, they spent everything they needed to in that fight.
Yeah, and I mean, so now you're looking, it's just going to be a DPS ult versus DPS ult. Of course, you're going to build the Shatter as well here, but it's going to come down to sort of the protection game. Can Breizhurect sort of be in position when they need to for wherever GG ends up pushing from is going to be the name of the game if they can execute these ults properly.
Rodark lets loose with the Death Blossom, does get Happy Yeehaw, but gets immediately found out by Mata on that Mei. And they're still rotating around the rest of GG here, once again without a single of their supports and no speed capacity whatsoever here, apart from that single ability that, of course, the Wuyong has for himself. But yeah, they're still being able to rush forward here as Lucio's back in the fight as quick as you please. Last engagement didn't really end before this one can fully begin. Dr. Unicorn cleans Happy Yeehaw out yet again. That Lucio falling twice in a row so early in these fights is absolutely brutal for the side of GG, and so they're gonna, looks like they're gonna fall down one by one here. Mata does get a kill onto Captain Erwan, but with Ono Senpai still alive on the objective here, Rodark is looking for that tank. Really want to clean that up before this fight can really be said to be done. Cleaning up everyone else but the tank. Yeah, it turns out that's gonna be enough.
Yeah, and now you've left yourself in a stagger potential. Look at this. The Rhine has to pin just to get onto the objective to trigger overtime here, and Silver's still coming back from spawn, needs that overclock to help the team.
Early kill though onto Rodark. That is pretty much as much value as you can possibly hope to get out of that last minute touch there. The barrier does come through. GG are looking healthy and sustained here on the objective alongside that overclock. Cleaning up AKZ, no chance at all for that Genji to get another blade online here. And the rest of GG are just rolling forward on the staggering members of Breizhurect. They do get that flip into their favor there, as one by one the members of Breizhurect are falling down. And yeah, that late game sim swap, that teleport to the objective for the rest of the members of that team, paid dividends for them.
I mean, that could not have been closer, though, for the side of GG, right? You put a lot of faith in those respawns, in things like the Symmetra getting back in time. And don't get me wrong, you know, you obviously have a team that can back up some of that level of skill, but it is still a terrifying thought to put into creation here for the side of GG. Breizhurect, though, I mean, clearly these teams are just evenly matched against each other right now, willing to go toe-to-toe in pretty much every metric, it seems. Very interested to see how this is going to work on Mecha Base now that the choke points are going to be much more narrow. There's going to be a place where a Mei can really thrive, as we've seen with Mata. These walls are actually going to be devastating if they can isolate targets.
Yeah, this is a Mei Rhine playground here, so GG have got to be feeling good about coming into this for the final map of Busan here. Breizhurect get walled off, just a little tiny entry point for the rest of the members of the squad here, trying to keep Captain Erwan alive, gets frozen up, but does get the kill onto Mata. Don't worry about that Mei for a little while longer here. It's exactly the kind of value you want to see coming through from this Junker Queen. No chance to slow you down when the rest of the team is there, rolling like a death ball here, and now they're on the objective, getting that cap going. I mean, those picks were absolutely clinical out from Breizhurect.
And those are the picks that you need. Again, this Junker Queen comp, it has to play faster, and it has to play on top of your Junker Queen as well. You cannot, even for a second, try to leave Captain Erwan alone, because isolation for a second can mean certain death into this composition, as you're seeing with these Mei walls, just trying to carve people off.
Yeah, car people often get themselves an easy engagement here onto the high ground. Bum gets an early kill onto AKZ. Again, that Genji falling down early in these fights, getting found out. Just in uncomfortable spots here. But yeah, that Mei wall is up, and you can see everyone from Breizhurect running for cover behind it. They do not want to get pinned by that Reinhardt directly into that icy edifice there. Rodark falling down as well, as Breizhurect are probably got to sound a full retreat here as the point is finally being capped for GG. I mean, a solid engagement. That Tidal Blast probably kept Bum alive, but you may have wanted to save that.
Something you may want in the back pocket for sure here, but you know, at the end of the day, anything to help secure these fights, what these squads are absolutely going to commit here. Now you're seeing the Earthshatter online here again, and this is going to be another pain point for Breizhurect. Like, look at this, you're all just going to funnel yourselves into this stairway. You have to be incredibly careful. As Silver, on a bit of an off angle, is making these supports really feel the pain.
Yeah, this is not at all where you want to be facing against GG's composition here. That Shatter is massive, but unfortunately leaves Ono Senpai a little bit vulnerable to Rodark there. That Reaper has been doing so much work here, finding any opening to take out this Reinhardt. As the Rampage does come through, I don't think it landed onto anybody here. Even Matamata did not feel that sort of anti-heal come through. It was just the massive damage coming through from AKZ. So really well played here from Breizhurect, avoiding a lot of that, you know, those downsides coming through from that Shatter, but still not getting a ton of value from there. Ultimate still getting the kills though, and that is what matters at the end of the fight here. Ono Senpai falling down as well. That should be just enough to clean this one up for Breizhurect.
Finally cleaned up in the end here, and you know, like you're talking about with that Rampage, not the most value in terms of the inherent applying the anti-effect, but being able to use that just to get out of the blizzard and not get frozen up, almost sort of worth it in its own regard. That sort of protected the rest of the team who were frozen up in these situations. AKZ, oh, this blade's coming out.
Yeah, the blade, the Tidal Blade coming through for AKZ. So much damage potential coming through. That stun is such a threat to lever over your opponent's heads here. And GG, yeah, they're having to fall back here. They're sort of calling this engagement a bit of a wash. Silver falling down with that overclock ready to go does put so much more time in the hands of Breizhurect.
So much more time, and you see this, right? The Reaper being able to teleport between the doors with the Death Blossom here. So Rodark is going to be able to go any and everywhere needed with this one.
Yeah, gets just behind the members of GG here, and that Mei is able to keep herself safe, and not a whole lot more damage being put onto the opponent there, as in fact, turns around and the rest of Breizhurect just get break down one by one here, as GG found themselves in the perfect position there, and that is kind of a brutal one. Silver does have this overclock, but it is just ticking away.
You might have thought you were at 99. I don't know what that was. That's going to be an overclock you wish you could have back here. But again, on the off angle, you find Silver constantly trying to be a nuisance while Ono Senpai is threatening the main with this Earth Shatter.
Not much of a shatter to be gained once you're back in spawn there. Another Rampage, this one putting in so much value, not just to keep Captain Erewhon alive, but to put the members of GG on the back foot here. And with only 7% left to go, I mean, it's going to be tough for GG to get back in.
I mean, yeah, it's going to have to pretty much be a perfect Reinhardt pain. And look at this, the disruption. Nobody's going to make it.
So not with a bang, but with a whimper. Unfortunately, Lightning not able to strike twice here for GG. That Reinhardt pin at the last second, just not enough to get them on the objective here this time. And the first map in the series is going to go the way of Breizhurect. So really well played for them. Excellent bend, excellent adjustments being made in terms of their playstyle. And really where you felt, you know, you were going to see this Reinhardt Mei composition at its best is when they found themselves so much more on the back foot.
Yeah, and it's very interesting sort of situation, right? Where that Mei composition, it generally wants to play first, use those walls to isolate targets, which we saw them doing to pretty solid effect on downtown. But as the maps went on, it felt like Breizhurect realized their fatal flaw was just sort of leaving their Junker Queen isolated and just sort of playing a faster tempo, right? Not giving the chance for those isolations to come through and instead having everybody play up with that Junker Queen. So in those situations where the walls came out, it was just, you know, another obstacle for Breizhurect to just ignore as they chose to go in here. So by upping the tempo, they certainly gave themselves an edge here, and GG, you know, still a very close map one here. So I'm very interested to see how the rest of the series is going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, this certainly was a map that brought to mind, of course, the route that these two teams have took to get here. They looked dominant, they looked equally matched throughout the entirety of the map, coming through all the way through Busan, all three of these sub-maps here. So it's certainly no shade at all to the gameplay it had on the side of GG. It was an excellent composition, but you're absolutely right, Mega, in that they found, you know, they made their adjustments, they knew their own weaknesses, did Breizhurect. and able to rotate around as functionally a 5-man death ball throughout the rest of the map there. And it just made it so much more difficult for Silver, for example, to find those, sneaky pickoffs. And any time that you had that Reinhardt, that you had Ono Senpai running down mid, you had Rodart there on that Reaper, just ready to absolutely devour those shields, and then Reinhardt's health pool in equal measure.
Yeah, and I mean, Reaper it excels at that, right? Breaking down these high HP brawlier tanks and sort of punishing their aggression at the same time, right? Anytime that you saw Ono Senpai dropping that shield, there were Hellfire shotguns ready to match. And again, it's just about being able to play there as a team, pretty cohesive. And keeping in mind, Breizhurect, they do fancy themselves more on those diva compositions and things like that. So this was sort of an off-kilter thing where they were still able to go toe-to-toe with this GG squad and even able to squeak out the win. So far, it's a good look for Breizhurect here, but GG, they definitely have more in the tank.
Yeah, they certainly do. I'm curious to see exactly how they want to approach our later maps in the series here. Again, Control is kind of its own beast. Only really Flashpoint has any real similar DNA to Control in terms of the playstyle, in terms of the adjustments, in terms of the compositions. You sort of need to be playing a Lucio or a Juno, and of course, we got to see that sort of conflict between these two teams here, running that a bit differently. They wanted to play a different style of these speedy compositions here. But as we head into our additional map types, that is going to be a sort of a different playstyle here. You still can play fast, but there is still, on Escort, on Hybrid, for example, you've got to worry about the payload, of course. It's not just get to the point as fast as possible. There's a lot more to consider in terms of your angles here. So I'm curious to see how that adaptation comes through and how exactly they want to run these brawl, or in the case of Breizhurect, maybe dive compositions.
Yeah, and so now, looking forward in the series, like you were mentioning here, the dive compositions, they could come out, but based on the playground that's been chosen, I think we're going to see more of the brawl here, as it's the tried, it's the true, everybody loves it except for me, I'm the hater, it's King's Row. And I mean, it's very interesting, obviously, to come up with this one, because again, this favors those sort of May wall angles, lots of different choke points, where you can utilize that Reinhardt, sort of take up the entire entryway here. And Breizhurect's composition with the Queen and the Reaper is still pilotable here, but there is going to be sort of some issues in terms of being able to deal with the off-angle Sojourn here, especially now that there's going to be a lot of verticality that has to be contested as well.
Yeah, this map pick here is what we in the business call doubling down. This is exactly where GG want to find themselves. This is what their composition that we saw already on Busan is sort of tailor-made for a map like King's Row here. So expect to see them running. I mean, if they decide to run something different, if they want to play different compositions, I will certainly be shocked. They looked comfortable, and of course, were able to take it to Breizhurect on this composition there with Ono Senpai leading that charge. And again, the Mei Rein synergy is a tale as old as time in Overwatch here, of course, but has been looking really solid, especially on these tight corridor maps here, where you've got so many narrow choke points to worry about, where you have the long funnel essentially that is both points B and C here on King's Row. So if they run something different, I will find myself shocked and surprised and a little bit appalled, if I'm being honest here, after such a clear telegraph.
Yeah. Very telegraphed indeed here, so I'm very interested to see as well, now that we've sort of gotten our first set of targeted bans out of the way here, what's going to end up coming up on our screens for these bans next. And it seems as though the Orisa is actually going to be where we go here. So here we did not see on Busan at all, but something that can certainly shut down this Reinhardt composition with the abilities like Fortify and the Javelin Spear to sort of keep that Reinhardt at arm's distance whenever Ono Senpai is wanting to go in. It's a solid ban to start, but how will Breizhurect respond?
Yeah, we found them banning, of course, the Baptiste earlier, so I certainly would not be surprised to see them ban another support if they really want to play a little bit close to the fire here. But yeah, that makes the most sense to me, banning the Mei out. If you're not going to be able to ban the Reinhardt, as of course you cannot, you want to get that Mei out of their hands. No chance for that clear synergy, and you kind of have to assume that GG are expecting at least one of their two tools here, the synergy to get banned out. So, of course, protecting the tank does mean that Mei is going to be be lost. There's still options to run, of course. It's not as if Mei is the only thing that can work alongside Reinhardt, but this is still a pretty heavy blow to that composition.
Yeah, I mean, now it's one of the things of it is a heavy blow to take the Mei out of the composition, but honestly, this could potentially offer a better alternative like we saw with Symmetra in that emergency situation, but instead of leaving that in the back pocket, it's something that could be brought to the forefront, right? Being able to, you know, take the Rhine and making it that much more unpredictable by TPing it around the map, as well as getting to some of these inaccessible high grounds, can be a massive plus. We've seen a lot of teams across all different levels of pro play be able to utilize that composition and that strategy to great success by having that Symmetra be there, because it's also a deterrent for other brawl compositions, right? If you get in range and you're not dealing with the Symmetra, it just takes but a few moments for her to charge up that beam to that high powered damage that we know it can be, and focusing down targets just like that.
Yeah, so something that they're going to have to be considerate of here on the side of GG. They have to find their different angles, of course, expecting still to see Silpher on that Sojourn as well. Looked very solid when those overclocks were not a little bit fat-fingered there at the end of that engagement. We're going to forget about that one for now. Until we see another one, we can call it a trend at that point. But diving into the map proper here on the defense, we are looking at Happy, Yeehaw here still on that Lucio, and Bum is now swapped from the Guiyang to the Baptiste. All right, so honestly, you know, even more valuable to have the Baptiste here on King's Row than, for example, on Busan. As good as it can certainly be at certain points, this is really where you expect to see the value coming out from that Baptiste pick there. So Matamata, as you were hoping for, Mega, is here on that Symmetra. So I'm really excited to see, you know, how they want to run with this here. Symmetra Reinhardt, again, is a synergy that is likewise as storied, especially even in some of the days of Overwatch 2 here, where you get to see these crazy teleport strats for the whole team.
Exactly. There's tons of opportunities and ways to make it work here, and it just adds a level of unpredictability that Reinhardt comps generally are lacking in here. Breizhurect, though, are trying to respond because they realize upping the tempo helped on round one. They've just upped it even further with a double speed composition just to try to close the distance on some of these other opposition they're going to be facing.
I love this. They knew exactly what Gelderse were going to be running out with here, so they're responding in kind here. AKZ on this high ground already maintaining some presence, but when a Reinhardt teleports directly into your face, you've got to beat a hasty retreat. And yeah, you expect at least one kill coming out of that engagement, and Rodark is the first to fall here on the Sojourn. Unfortunately, has a few seconds to think about what you've done. AKZ, though, does get a few kills in the back end of this fight here, so we are not out of this yet on the side of Breizhurect. And yeah, despite being the early engagers here, Gelderse are just unfortunately falling down before the massive flexibility and speed coming out from Breizhurect. This first point looks to be fully in their control.
I said it going into this match, AKZ is going to be one you want to watch here. This Genji can absolutely come up with picks and make them materialize from thin air. But also, you know, that entire fight realistically from the defense just fell apart because Bum's positioning, I don't know if it was just not communicated with the rest of the team, but unfortunately just that Baptiste was not in position to heal and keep everybody alive. And now look at this, right? Bum has the long spawns, is still trying to make their way back into the engagement here, whereas everybody else is still just trying to hold on this corner and still hold some space.
Ono Senpai about to have this Shatter online, but eats so much damage around this corner here in the face of Captain Erwan, who is just able to cleave through so effectively with that Carnage. It's just so difficult to hold down this position here when the rest of Breizhurect are able to roll and brolly around this tank. But with that Shatter, again, no shield, nothing at all to defend yourself against the massive, devastating potential that is a Shatter. And that charge coming through, Dr. Unicorn's taken out well and truly here. But Captain Erwan does get the respawn kill, despite the early pick going the way of GG. Breizhurect are able to rally around despite losing that early pick-off there and just maintain such control over the point.
Yeah, and I mean, just a beautiful Dragon Blade to help clean up there as well. So like you said, being able to maintain control of this point and live through these Earth Shatters has really been an impressive feat that Breizhurect has been accomplishing here. That being said, they are down their Genji. They do have some tools to work with here, but they may have to wait for AKZ to fully be back in the fight as the defense is here and ready to go.
Sim teleport to the high ground, having to answer Rodark there. Does go for the overclock, so despite that fortified position from the Sim, that wall is absolutely massive. There's really little at all that the Sojourn can do through with that overclock, essentially mitigating that ultimate entirely here. As GG still have 2 left to go in this engagement. Bum did use the window there, but finally everyone from Breizhurect is back in the fight here. 1 ult spent, 3 left to go in this engagement. Dr. Unicorn does have that sound barrier online. AKZ, though, gets taken down early on here, as Bum is proving to be lethal here on this Baptiste pick. We still have the ultimates. Breizhurect are still rallying back together here. They want to find themselves as a team of 5 before they really make a push.
And again, this verticality is starting to pose a little bit of a problem, right? The only person who's really able to go deal with it effectively is AKZ, but when AKZ is removed from the fight here, it is causing a bit of the pain point here, where you're seeing people like Silver, as well as Happy Yeehaw, and even Bum are just taking advantage of just staying on this high ground, staying out of the range of this Breizhurect Brawl comp.
Yeah, and of course, if they want to get the high ground terribly badly, they can just have a bit of a sim teleport to get you there. The beat comes through from Happy Yeehaw, turns out to be enough to withstand the immense pressure coming through from that rampage, but a beat answered from Dr. Unicorn should be just enough to save everyone but them. Ono Senpai, though, does get taken down for that pick, but with another one answered back onto Captain Erwan, it looks as though GG are going to be in control yet again here, and we are stalled out with this payload just before point B.
This defense has been mounted here, and it seems pretty solid. Again, the control over the high ground, being able to survive some of these engagements, as well as some well-timed ultimates here, especially that sound barrier from Happy Yeehaw being applied to everybody after the anti-effects of the rampage were already going here. Breizhurect, though, is able to walk into this next one with an orbital ray here. This should give them the edge in terms of pushing power here and sort of force the entirety of GG to respect them.
That ray comes down from Tyrannex, should be enough to force everyone from GG back here. They're just trying to find just a few more meters to get themselves capping point B here. AKZ cleans out Bum. That Genji absolutely devastating there, but Silver does answer onto their opposite. Rodark, no chance at all to build up towards that overclock, but it turns out not to matter in the end. It gave them just enough distance required to cap point B with 3 minutes in point C.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Breizhurect would have loved to have done it in a faster time here, but being able to get it done is what matters as we head into point C. Now Silver still with that overclock in the back pocket here, most likely going to have to be used as an answer, or at least a deterrent to AKZ, who has the Dragon Blade ready to go, while Happy Yeehaw is just missing the sound barrier right now.
Yeah, not a lot of defensive capability here on the side of GG. Nothing really to defend them against the might of this overclock coming through from the high ground. Rodark is laying in those rail shots, but no kills coming through so far. AKZ, however, cleans up that tank. No chance at all to stand tall at this objective. Everyone from GG are having to fall back as much as they can, but unfortunately, there's not a whole lot of distance you can retreat to when your spawn doors are just behind you. Everyone having to run away from Captain Erwan here, who's got this rampage so hungry for this blood, such carnage available to them, and not even having to use it just yet. Just the threat of it is enough, but that blade from AKZ turns out to be every bit as beautiful as we're hoping for. Silver is still here getting some work done, but it turns out to be nowhere near enough, as Breizhurect, I mean, they just had enough go buttons to make this one work for them. Those 2 ultimates alone, that blade and that rampage, were so devastating.
Yeah, and again, you know, this GG squad who, you know, from the last time I saw them, very decisive, very knowledgeable about what they want to do. They seem to be pulling their punches a little bit and hesitating, and these moments of hesitation is what's giving Breizhurect the opportunity, right? Especially on this double speed comp, they almost sort of have this reckless abandon about them where they're just going in regardless of the circumstances around them, right? Even if they know they're pushing into terrible circumstances like these ultimates such as Earth Shatter, they don't really care. And GG, instead of trying to match that aggression in any way, is hesitating and providing these moments of just sort of weakness where Breizhurect is more than happy to exploit it here. So now with the roles swapped here, Breizhurect is going to make a little bit of a swap for the defense at the very least. That being said, it was a bait in the spawn room, so I guess I've lied to the people. No, it's going to be the standard comp for the defense. If it's not broke, don't fix it. Meanwhile, GG, please don't walk out of spawn on Junkrat. Pretty please. That's all I ask. It's not a good attack. It's not a good attack pick. It's just not.
We'll see how long that pick lasts here on the defense. The only adjustment they've made so far is Tyrannex here on this Baptiste. Of course, it looked really solid out from Bum on the offense. Yeah, all right, Matamata has spared us all the Junkrat pick and is once again on that Symmetra. So expecting to find a little bit of a pick here. So Silver not able to find anything at all. So back on to the Sojourn we go, as we are sort of expecting here. So that mirror comp here for the DPS line, only the Sojourn, in fact. But AKZ is still here on this Genji, and an early kill onto Silver, though. I mean, these teleports are unfortunately a little bit telegraphed here out from GG. Breizhurect seem to have the full read of this composition. They rotate to the high ground position there, trying to find inroads through this tiny little window, but that essentially just puts them in a very cleanly defined barrel for Breizhurect to capitalize upon. Despite being on the low ground here, that immortality field getting taken down early on here. No chance for that utility to be had on the side of GG going forward here. Ozone Senpai falling down, as well as Matamata. This push is well and truly dusted here, despite some late tickling from those turrets. I mean, it just feels like Breizhurect have the full read on GG.
Yeah, they definitely do. I mean, props to Silver for attempting that merry-go-round swap to the Widowmaker here, because you saw Breizhurect were trying to sort of flip the map and be in the attacker's positioning, but unfortunately no picks are netted from that one. So now that we're re-engaging back at the choke here, again, it's sort of these telegraph teleporters here that are sort of biting GG into the butt right now, and they're having to sort of hesitate and rethink their game plan.
Biting them in the bum, you might say, as we have Tyrannex come core onto this high ground, sort of providing a little bit of vantage position here, a position where they could find themselves teleporting in just a moment if they're not careful. Yep, they just go on to the high ground over there, rotating around, and finally this one starts to pay off for you as Ono Senpai cleans up Rodark. Dr. Unicorn falling down as well, but Tyrannex is still in this engagement here. Happy Yeehaw has the express trip back to spawn, as Tyrannex is just playing a little bit of bringing around the rosy here with Ono Senpai. Does get out with their life, but turns out that's going to be all here, as the rest of DG are here on the objective, trying to stay alive, as Captain Erwan is back in the engagement here, does get the kill onto Matamata. Holo, is this holdable here from the side of Breizhurect? They said, we're not done, I didn't hear no bell. Cleaning up the healing members of GG here. It does seem like GG are back in this engagement for a few more seconds, but Ono Senpai is just so dangerously low, and despite the availability of that shatter, gets taken down before getting a chance to even use it. And it looks as though Silver's still trying to find a pick here. We're not done with this engagement just yet, but Breizhurect are back almost entirely in force here. They do have those members returning from spawn here at this point, and on the high ground you still have Rodark trying to maintain cover for those returning members of the squad. On the objective though, Ono Senpai is still back here on this Reinhardt. No ticks gained whatsoever here for GG so far. Plenty of ultimates ready, but that is one less as Silver gets taken down early on here. Window out as well from Bum, and that massive window of that shield barrier coming through from the Symmetra is absolutely dividing the objective here. But Dr. Unicorns and Rodak are still here on the point, still getting the kills. Ono Senpai falling down. Finally, this fight has to be done and over. Mega, please save me.
Yeah, I mean, it should finally be done here. Lots of re-engagement, very sloppy, honestly, you know, coming out from both sides here. But now with less than a minute to go here, both sides are working with a plethora of ultimates here, especially, again, looking at these tank ultimates, the Earth Shatter, ready to deliver devastating blow to put everybody on their back. Unicorn, whether aware of it or not, has a race against the clock to try to build this sound barrier in time.
Ono Senpai falling dangerously low yet again, but that barrier is absolutely crucial out from Happy Yeehaw, keeping the team members alive and kicking for a few moments longer here. So Dark's overclock doesn't get a ton of value apart from some damage done and cleaning up that immortality field, but Ono Senpai gets that fadeaway shot onto Captain Erwan, so without their tank, Breizhurect are going to have a really tough time holding down the fort here. But again, they have so much room, so much time to take up this objective here.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, seeing as the entirety of GG still has to cap all 3 points here. If you get your Junker Queen back in time, there's still a Rampage raring and ready to go, as well as Dr. Unicorn with a sound barrier for the re-engage.
That sound barrier is exactly the thing they need to get back into this fight. Oh no, Senpai tries to run for the hills, but there's no chance whatsoever as Captain Erwan still holding on to this Rampage here. It feels like it is all over for the side of GG. Breizhurect found themselves in such a good position here on this early defense, as Silver does get a kill onto Rodark on the high ground, but that might be all they get for their trouble, as Breizhurect looking beautiful, clinical, clean as you please on this defense here, capping a full 3 points and full holding GG on GG's map pick. They go up in the series in these grand finals 2-0.
I mean, absolutely, you know, that first map of Busan was what we expected, back and forth the whole way through. But Breizhurect just put on a clinic, being able to cap with time in the bank and then send it to a full hold on point A there. I mean, Breizhurect firing on all cylinders right now, and it seems as though GG is starting to, you know, realize that their fundamental comp, this Reinhardt, is, you know, flawed a little bit, that there are weaknesses that can be exploited here. So looking forward in this series, you have to start to wonder if you're GG, is there another level of adaptation you can provide, or is this all you have in the tank right now?
Fortunately, they've got a few minutes to consider their life choices before we head to potentially our final map in the series here, folks. We're going to take a quick break, but do not go anywhere. We'll be back with the conclusion of this series in just a bit.
Memories. Memories.
Welcome back, folks. We are here in the finals between Gelderse Geitjes and Breizhurect, GG as we're calling it nice and simply, and Breizhurect as we're also calling them nice and simply. Doing such a good job of cleaning up their opposition here so far, despite GG's best efforts. They're just getting found out, and I love the word that you mentioned at the end of before our break there, Mega, getting exploited kind of at every turn by Breizhurect.
Yeah, I mean, currently this composition that that GG is normally been running into great success here. I mean, it's just been sort of exploited and picked apart. That being said, though, they are starting to run out of targeted bans they can hit against it here, with both the Mei ban already out of the way as well as that Baptiste here. The only thing realistically left is the Reinhardt. But that's the beauty of these brawl comps. You generally can sub in one character for another here. So the inside of GG, all hope is not lost yet, but this is going to be a good litmus test for them about how well they can handle being under this pressure.
Yeah, this is certainly where we're expecting to see them. And of course, we talked about this at the very start of the series. Neither of these teams have been in this position so far this season. This is not something we've had to see from them so far here. Rather, on the losing side, this is a situation that Breizhurect have been in many times throughout the season so far. But to be on the back foot like this, to be at risk of losing this and losing the entire tournament here, that is a difficult place to be in here on the side of GG. So I'm very curious to see how they want to adapt here. We've seen their adaptations so far, of course, not having access to that Mei with the Reinhardt. They swapped to the Sim comp, which should, in theory, work, unless your opponent just runs it down mid and can read you at every single angle there. So it's going to be difficult for them to find their way forward here. We'll see if there is a ban, for example, Breizhurect bans a Reinhardt out. I mean, that's just got to be the death knell here for GG.
Yeah, you definitely have to worry about that ban should it come up. The upside being, though, that you can do a little bit of a protect, at least for this map, right? You can ban out some other tank for the side of GG with your first ban access, and then, you have to worry about map 4 and 5 if we end up going there for that potential Reinhardt ban. But Saravasa, again, this is a very interesting style we're seeing from Breizhurect, where, they traditionally are known for playing a much different style with the D.Va in play and being more methodical, sort of dive-heavy team. So this switch-up, this showing of flexibility is very solid on the side of Breizhurect here. GG, the question now becomes, will they protect that Reinhardt with another tank ban? And they will actually, and hit the Junker Queen in the same breath here. So now I'll be interested to see what else Breizhurect has in the tank as we're talking about their flexibility.
Yeah, both an offensive and defensive ban in one fell swoop here for GG. So a really solid pick for them. Clearly that Queen was giving them so much trouble here. Not just, of course, in those big flashy ult plays, but just in this single minute-to-minute gameplay. Of course, that shield is so ineffectual against the axe swing of Carnage coming through. So very much a benefit to them to not have to worry so much about that Queen. But banning the Sim out for Breizhurect, so with both Ryan and Mei available, I'm kind of expecting that pretty much the whole way through here from GG. But in case they wanted to run the Sim, in case they wanted to have that pocket comp, if they felt good about certain moments of that on King's Row, that is off the table here.
Yeah, and so now it is going to have to be more of the traditional tried and true here on Saravasa, like you were saying, which I don't think is bad for GG in the slightest here. While they certainly were getting a little bit creative with those teleporters, we did also see, like you mentioned several times, that they were sort of being telegraphed. It was like, hey, we're heading here. Also, the team wasn't really being cohesive with those teleports as well here, often isolating a few members and getting sidetracked along the way here. So being able to put everybody back on the same page is going to be a massive plus here, I feel like, with the Mei composition. The question is now just, again, how Breizhurect are going to respond without the Junker Queen. Do you pivot to other brawl options like the Ramatra or the Orisa? Or do you potentially go with something more tried and true, something that you're more comfortable on, like the D.Va, even though it's not as effective against the brawl?
Yeah, it's certainly a question of how, because we haven't seen any other looks from them so far in this series here. Of course, coming into this, as you're saying, we expect them to be running that sort of D.Va-based composition here, but we're getting nothing but tank bans out from GG. That does sort of put you in, a smaller and smaller pen as we get on into the series here. So this is kind of GG's best chance, if as close as Busan was. I feel like Saravasa here is their best chance. It is also their last chance to make this, to lengthen this series here and perhaps give themselves a chance at the crown as we get into this series, as we get into the map of Saravasa here. But this is it. This is their backers against the wall, and we've seen them kind of crumble a little bit. So I'm really hoping to see them look a bit more confident now that they've got all the pieces of their composition available to play with once again here. Breizhurect are hovering this D.Va comp, and Wodark here is currently looking at that Tracer. I would love to see this Tracer Genji. What a classic dive composition.
Yeah. And so, again, being more classic, tried and true, this is what we expect from Breizhurect here. So it'll be interesting to see finally the Brawl versus Dive matchup, what we were expecting all a series long, finally coming out here. And how GG sort of intends to respond, right? They obviously have the wherewithal with the Lucio to sort of speed onto some of these characters, but having that agency and being able to actually utilize it are two very different things here. So we have to see if they can finally execute.
Absolutely. Those fire strikes getting sent into the welcoming maw of that D-Matrix out from Captain Erwan, who is probably happy to be back on this comfortable pick. That is the D.Va here, but that Reinhardt is putting in so much damage whenever it's not the fire strikes. That hammer can cleave through your armor in seconds flat, getting D-Mexed immediately as this fight really kicks off. The point is unlocked here on Market, cleaning up the remaining baby D.Va as well. So this is exactly where GG want to find themselves here. A low ground snipe, railgun shot, headshot onto Tyranex. This has got to be GG feeling themselves.
Certainly, right? This is back in the comfort style, probably what they were expecting to run into all series long here. So now already with first cap under their belt here, Breizhurect, you know, again, they're going to have to try to set up and stage this dive properly. It's going to take a little bit of time against this composition here, but, you know, being able to get everybody in position is going to be the main key here before you can really go in and execute. You can't just play no thought, head empty rush like you were before.
Yeah, they have to be very considerate of their angles here, and of course having to worry about that potential stone wall that is Ono Senpai here on this Reinhardt. You do have Captain Erwan trying to hold down this high ground here, but Silver finds AKZ just on the approach here. No chance at all to start that engagement properly as the remaining members of Breizhurect just get picked apart one by one, and that's another engagement done and dusted before it could really get off the ground.
Exactly, and so now without your D.Va player, obviously there's going to be some contest here on the point, but unless somebody's going to start a stagger touch, most likely this point is going to be heading over to GG in a very confident way here. And again, they just sort of have this sort of confidence and control about them right now, where this dive composition taking all of this time to set up, this is the GG I expected, being more decisive and being able to shut it down before giving the opponents a chance to start.
Yeah, in terms of ultimates, I mean, GG are building up to theirs a little bit quicker, of course. Winning those fights certainly will do that for you, but no one has them fully ready except for Bum yet. And Breizhurect also is about to have quite a few online, so this could potentially be a protracted engagement here if they're allowed to build up towards those ultimates. But Ono Senpai falling down early here. I mean, we're going to see if GG want to stick in this fight, but without your tank, this comp falls apart pretty quickly here. Tidal Blast comes through, and it is enough to push the members of Breizhurect back, but that D.Va Bomb letting loose doesn't get any kills for the trouble, but everyone scattering does mean AKZ can find the kill onto Happy Yeehaw. That Blizzard on the objective turns out to be massive, getting that D-Mech onto Captain Erwan, so tank off the board yet again here. Ono Senpai is now back in the fight, so this is where we're going to see the fight swing in GG's favor. That being said, members of the team are still getting found out by the remaining Breizhurect players, and that Kitsune Rush coming through as well here. Tyranex still wants to fight this as Breizhurect go through with the Sound Barrier as well. With 3 alive, they have the 3 members with ultimates, so AKC has this blade and is just slashing through the couple members of the team, but is not able to get any kills, unfortunately, for their trouble here. Tyranex finding Bum does mean this engagement is going to linger a few minutes longer, a few seconds longer here at least, with the flip coming through somewhere through that fight, but Silver is still getting these rail shots, and Ono Senpai is just putting in so much work on the objective, and there's really nothing the remaining members of Breizhurect can do to stand against it.
Again, very chaotic, long, drawn-out fights here, but Breizhurect really is not fighting the punches that they were before here. This brawl composition is being allowed to hold too much space, as well as their staying power has been immense here, finally forcing some hero swaps from the side of Breizhurect to a more brawly style themselves. They have the Orisa, as well as AKZ back on that Reaper that we were seeing on Busan here. Very interesting approach where it's, again, going to be about bursting down the Reinhardt and punishing the over-aggression that Ono Senpai has been exhibiting on this map.
I like this swap. We'll see if it pays off in the long run here, because of course, Ultimate's very much favoring the team that did not have to swap half their composition here. That barrier out from Happy Yeehaw is essentially enough to put this fight well and truly to bed here. AKZ does get a return kill at the back end of it there, but almost finding that in midair pin. Still gets a kill on the tower next afterwards, and we are already at map point here on Surabasa.
Exactly. And again, the GG returned to form here. Look at this ult bank that they've built up as well here. As long as they don't extend everything in this opening fight as they make their way over to Palace, I mean, realistically, they have a good shot at being able to close this map out in a pretty dominant fashion here. But again, it's going to be about what they have to use in these fights heading forward here as Breizhurect is starting to approach the point now and starting to build up some ults of their very own.
Yeah, let's hope it's enough to get into this engagement. AKZ has swapped over to the Pharah here, wants to find some long-distance pressure with no real answers apart from Silver and occasional icicles out from Matamata on the side of GG. But they're still able to rotate around the high ground of the objective here are Breizhurect, as GG are still holding down pretty strong. They get first cap onto the point there. That Tidal Blast is on to the Reinhardt. Such a fearsome sight running towards you. You've got Dara next to you in their very best. Just hop away as best you can. Best Mario impression I've seen all series long. AKZ falls down to a bit of a self-rocket there. Not at all the kind of thing you want to see. Despite this window out, despite the overclock coming through as well, no value gained whatsoever from these ults on the side of Breizhurect. We're kind of witnessing them fall apart in real time here.
Yeah, they just simply don't have the answers provided right now without that Junker Queen, right? Nothing really sticking right now for Breizhurect now. But trying to make some swaps in the spawn room. Not really sure what the momentary Roadhog was for, but hey, listen, I see the inspiration. It's going to be the sound barrier from Dr. Unicorn here that's going to be able to keep everybody alive when this overclock from Silver comes out. But that being said, this point's already ticking up.
Yeah, Bum being taken out early, that might be just the engagement point that Breizhurect need to get into this one here. They need to get themselves on the board in this map, or we're going to go to a fourth end of this series. Not at all what you want to have the further and further we go in. You do not want to allow GG to build up momentum.
That momentum is scary here, but finally off the back of AKZ, you're able to shut it down at least momentarily here, but for how much longer is that going to occur? AKZ obviously has to be incredibly careful about where they play this Pharah. So incredibly volatile, right? It can be the massive damage dealer you need it to be, but it can also be such an easy target for somebody like a Sojourn to take out of the skies.
Yeah, Bum is getting a little bit, getting forward just a little bit here. Breizhurect have found them as a very clean pick-off potential here in a lot of these fights. And then early barrage coming through from AKZ. Don't mind that I forgot the name of that ultimate. Just don't see it terribly often here. But this is Diamond, of course. We're happy to see the Pharah pick. She's looking pretty solid these days. And AKZ really making it look very clinical in those cleanup kills out from Captain Erwan.
Clinical and executed there. So now Breizhurect are finding ways to bounce back, at least on this initial point here. That being said, they're going up against Tidal Blast, still that overclock, and even a sound barrier now here. That being said, is anyone going to make it into the point to touch?
Yeah, the barrier is just start the engagement here, but everyone gets forced into the cyclone that is that Terra Surge out from Captain Erwan. You do have the Tidal Blast coming through, lands onto Silver, wants to get all of this damage thrown through onto that Orisa. Early gets the kill on to AKZ as Silver is just doing so much work in here, all over the objective, sliding here and around, all over to the high ground and low, cleaning up Dr. Unicorn as well. This is Breizhurect's last chance to hold on in this map, or we are going to a fourth one in this series. Rodark cleaning up Bum. There's just a couple members left alive on either side here, but for how much longer? As Happy Yeehaw is the only remaining member of GG, gets taken down by a jab from Captain Erwan. We are not done at Surabasa just yet.
I mean, on a knife's edge there, but Breizhurect hang on. The sweep still possible, but they still have 2 more points to get through here. It seems like they've started to find some level of purchase here, but now they've made even more swaps. AKZ off of that Pharah, deciding the skies are no longer safe. Over to the Tracer instead. Good in theory, but it's going to be about how much the Tracer can actually harass this backline and potentially even find quick picks, as this next fight has pretty much already been decided thanks to the Blizzard being built up.
Yeah, Blizzard and Shatter into this fight here, just leading with it early on, freezing up the members of Breizhurect, and that one, you called it, Mega. Done and dusted. No chance at all for that engagement to go any other way, but with the Blizzard in the hands of Matamata, they're going to take first cap on the Ruins here, and yeah, still putting themselves in the driver's seat yet again.
And this is exactly where you want to be. Breizhurect now has an opportunity to try to push in once their Tracer gets in. but it's going to come down to what they can handle. You have Captain E1 with the Terror Surge.
Yeah, Surge comes through, but that Maywall to just lift up a little bit there still gets the kill onto Bum. And so that fight, I mean, we saw that early pick-off kill coming through was just enough. Happy Yeehaw was not in that engagement at all, as Rodark was able to clean them up early on. So really well played from Breizhurect. Now they just need to hold strong.
Yeah, being able to hold strong, obviously easier said than done, as the pulse is just going to be around the corner. Jeez Louise, that could have ended badly.
I mean, that was a jump scare for us. I can only imagine what it was. Matamata responding with that ice block just in the nick of time there. Does have this Earth Shatter online. Ono Senpai hunting around, trying to find a solid engagement route, roughing all the way around the objective here to really identifies Tara next, goes through with the Shatter. The Maywall enough to hold that horse back here as Arisa just manages to get away. Captain Erwan with their life here. So Tara next doing an excellent job of keeping their tank alive for a few moments longer here. Ono Senpai, the first one to truly fall in this fight. Still that Arisa falling dangerously low, but has all of those survival tools available at their disposal. Well played here from Breizhurect. They did give up point capture for just a little bit, but you will take that for a fight win.
Exactly, and so now you're going to have this point contested here. Oh, they're staggering out Bum. I was like, what, why does it say there's somebody on the point here? Bum finally finding the cliff. But honestly, Bum, you could have tried to run back to the rest of your team. They're here now, and so now they're going to be missing that main source of healing.
Your team misses you. So tragic. All right. Well, that looks like that's going to be the end of this round here. Ruins is going to go the way of Breizhurect just off the back of that one stagger there. So we are now 2-2, the final map, final sub-map here on Suravasa. The series is decided by this. Do we go to a map 4, or is it all done here with Breizhurect getting a 3-0?
Yeah. And so it's going to be the potential for the 3-0 here. AKZ, again, lurking in the wings as a Tracer can do. But again, just it's about being a nuisance as well as staying alive here in AKZ. Already having the recall force, this could be bad.
Trying to find a pulse bomb target here, but seeing the rest of GG playing so protective of each other, trying to use the buddy system getting to the objective here. You've got Happy Yeehaw and Silver both with their ults ready to go, and we are spending everything in this engagement here. Both sides are utilizing ultimates left and right here, cleaning up Captain Erwan. I mean, that's got to be this one clinched here for GG. AKZ gets a pulse bomb kill onto Matamata, but that might be a cosmetic one at best there. Another kill onto Ono Senpai, so they're still going to hold down on the objective here, but Breizhurect might have an easier time getting in if they get back fast.
Yeah, and it's kind of unfortunate because Breizhurect ended up investing so much into that one, right? There was a moment where they had a massive ult advantage because GG had invested a lot there, where they could have just saved ultimates and come into the next fight, but they believed it was winnable for so long that they now find themselves at a disadvantage for this next one.
We're already at 50% on the point here for GG. So hard for Breizhurect to build up towards the rest of these ultimates, especially when you've got that overclock rolling from Silver. Cleans up too quickly and cleanly here on the objective. Captain Erwan falling down yet again in the end of this fight here, and there's really only one chance left for Breizhurect to get back in.
Yeah, this is going to be that final chance here, but already missing your Lucio, your speed. I mean, realistically, it's going to have to be AKZ getting over to the point, but once you do, there's still an Earth Shatter lying in a wait here, so it's going to be incredibly dangerous. Can anybody even make it?
It looks as though they're not able to get there in time. AKZ did their very best, but just not able to get there. The distance not able to be surmounted. And GG are going to take their first map in the series and prolong it here. We are going to a map 4. We are not done yet.
Yeah, being able to get a state of execution here, absolutely massive. And showing that their brawl composition can work and actually shut down the dive in the best way possible here. But now looking forward here, it is going to be one of those things of Breizhurect having the opportunity for first ban. That Reinhardt ban is all but inevitable at this point. So GG, they have to have something else in the tank here moving throughout the series, because if they don't, then all they have is bought themselves just a little bit of extra time.
Yeah, I mean, Suravasa reminded me so heavily of what we saw on Busan, of course, with as similarly as we've talked about, as Control and Flashpoint tend to play. It makes sense. These two teams seem so easily matched here, especially when, of course, we have to remember this was Breizhurect at their lowest power level all series long. They did not have access to that Junker Queen that was so instrumental in their success for those previous 2 maps. And they're going to have access to her coming in to our 4th map of the series here. So GG, despite getting a map win here, that was their best chance at a map win outside of the first of the series here. So very much still looking to them to find their adjustments, to find their way over this composition that Breizhurect have been so comfortable with so far. It was good to see them on that Orisa-based rush comp, you know, in the latter stages of Saravasa. It really came alive, just wasn't enough to get them there at the very end. But if that was able to give a bit of trouble to GG, I mean, they certainly had their work cut out for them against the Junker Queen yet again.
Exactly, right? And so, but again, you know, Breizhurect did come into this known for their dive style here. So this could be sort of it's a very interesting sort of circumstance we found themselves in, where Breizhurect has only been able to come away in these brawl mirrors, and it's probably just not what they were expecting heading into the series either here. Lots of different expectations these teams have placed on each other, but the one thing that we at least have seen is that GG can bounce back from that pressure and still be able to play their style at its absolute best. So continuing forward in the series, obviously there's going to be bans targeted against them, but being able to have that mental bounce back is already a huge plus in your favor.
Yeah, of course, there is the sense of momentum, as we talked about a little bit in the map itself. It really feels that GG have a little bit more wind in their sails. We saw them make their adjustments, able to make the bans and compositional choices that worked best for them coming through Saravasa. They looked really strong, really confident, really comfortable coming in, which is not something we've seen all series long, finding them at a very good stage here. And so, yeah, we'll see exactly how that manifests in terms of the bans here, what else they can run to make it work. Reinhardt is not like the only thing you can run tank-wise with the rest of this composition here. I would be very surprised to see if Ono Senpai only has the Reinhardt available to them, but there's still a lot left to go in terms of composition here. I really hope we get to see something as comfortable, something at least that works as well. Of course, Zarya still looks good. There's always room for Ramatra alongside the Mei. It's a bit of a sort of a hybrid option between that Reinhardt, between like poke-based tanks there. So we'll see exactly what we get here coming into our 4th map in the series. And the map choice in particular, New Queen Street, that is going to inform a lot of their choices here.
Exactly. And New Queen Street is very interesting it's very interesting in terms of the push maps, because it's the one that obviously has the most verticality that has to be contested here. And again, we saw that there are moments where this GG composition, even if they're playing their standard comp, has issues challenging verticality in any meaningful way. Being able to teleport around and things like that is really the only way that GG has been able to find success. Anytime that they attempt rotations or something like that, they were always losing people in the process. So, looking at it on paper, it's already going to be an uphill battle, but knowing the bans that are most likely coming here, it's also just going to be harder and harder to see how GG, unless they have something else in the back pocket, are going to come away here.
Yeah, Breizhurect have to feel pretty confident coming into this here. Of course, not as clean as they did. You got to feel a little bit shaken by losing that map of Saravasa, despite it going so close. Of course, it could have been just 3 of those sub points and done there, but they were able to drag it out to a full 5 on Flashpoint. So that itself is no mean feat. Again, you can feel the mental strain, the emotional strain coming into that that 3rd and potentially final of the points there on Flashpoint. So really well done in terms of adapting, and I'm expecting them to bring that same sort of mindset here. Now that they are in the driver's seat once again, they've got some control over this, they've got a handle on it. Despite the map win out from GG, they still have a chance, do Breizhurect, to make this one a 3-1, which is perfectly respectable if they want to clean this one out.
Exactly. Again, you want to clean this one out, right? You don't want to give that potential momentum over, like you were saying, to the side of GG. You don't want them to start fueling and feeling that reverse sweep energy. You want to be able to nip this in the butt as quick as possible. And Breizhurect banned Zarya? Okay. Honestly, this might be the world's largest case of hubris, to put it mildly. To not ban out the Reinhardt here, like, I understand you want to be able to say you beat GG at their own game, but this feels incredibly foolish. Maybe you're trying to save it for map 5, but, like, realistically, just not going for the Reinhardt ban at all here makes no sense. None at all.
Right, don't we want to be done before it gets to map 5? I'm sure it would look really cool if you do it in map 5, but what if it goes wrong? Yeah, so we'll see exactly how this pans out. The Genji ban out from GG also makes total sense here. You don't want to have AKZ on one of their very best heroes coming all the way through here. But yeah, just taking a look at our bans so far, this, I mean, if this does not go Breizhurect's way, that is, you're absolutely right, Mega. This is going to read as just monumental hubris. All of the tank bans out from GG, and this is, you finally have the chance to do it yourself here. And you ban out the Zarya pick.
Again, this could be something that Breizhurect looks back on and feels so incredibly foolish. Who knows? Maybe on New Queen Street, in scrims, maybe GG has been playing a bunch of Zarya somehow. But, like, again, if this blows up in your face, even if you are able to come out and win map 5, this is just such a foolish risk. Just ban the Reinhardt. There's no reason not to at this point. But again, they're the ones in the driver's seat, not me. So that ultimately it is their decision at the end of the day here. Breizhurect going to be more than likely back on that Junker Queen comp. And here, you know, again, now that we're back into sort of this brawl mirror, I'm very much expecting to see if GG can maintain that momentum of keeping up the pressure, being able to find these Mave walls and execute on them quickly, like we saw in that last map, or if now that they're up against another fast-paced composition once again, they're going to start to struggle and fall by the wayside here.
I mean, Breizhurect was winning out in this sort of brawl mirror earlier on in the series, so they might just be counting on, you know, their capacity in this sense here. But either way, we are getting into the engagement. It is the potential, once again, final map of the series. We were map 4 here between Breizhurect and Gelderse Geitjes. We are looking to see if this is going to get a lot of value here out of this far, or if once again AKC is going to be a little bit forced out here, as Silver just seems to have bullets with their name on it. But it turns out that Rodark is just the absolute lethal thing you need to see here with this Reaper. Yeah, just able to find these flanks so effectively here, and GG, no chance at all as this bot is going to start pushing in Breizhurect's favor.
Yeah, and already in the driver's seat here once again here, so maybe, you know, they know something I didn't with that Zarya ban, but you know, it is just the start of the map here. Still plenty of time to work with, and getting around that corner and making sure AKZ can stay safe are going to be the most important concerns right now.
Yeah, again, plenty of skybox to work with here, but both DPS can easily be looking at you and turn their attention towards that more fragile these days Pharah. Yep, Matamata does just that. Getting in range is not at all where you want to see, but losing your tank, though, that is a trade you'll take any day of the week. Ono Senpai is back in spawn yet again here, as Breizhurect are moving up comfortably towards their ultimates here. Captain Erwan about to have that Rampage online, but Bum has that Tidal Blast ready and ready to go.
Yeah. And with it already being dedicated, I mean, this fight is going to be over before you know it here. Already the tank missing means that GG is going to be able to start pushing on their own side of the map here. That being said, having to expend the Tidal Blast means that Breizhurect are going to be able to come in with a Kitsune Rush now. Very interesting that they have the Kiriko in play here as well here, when they have, you know, had some good success running that Wu Young as well. But I guess with the Pharah in the skies, you want something that can heal that a little more consistently and send some Mafuda to the air.
Yeah, AKZ also building up, and pretty much everyone on Breizhurect now either has or is about to have their ultimate, so expect a solid fight coming out from them. The shatter from Ono Senpai is enough to clean up Rodark there. AKZ finding out Silver as well, not spending that barrage just yet, does finally clean up Matamata with that carpet bombing from above, as Bum takes out Tara next. This is a very messy engagement here, but that is the Rampage, and that should be the death knell for the remaining members of GG, as Breizhurect clean up, surging forward over those squishy anti-healed targets.
Yeah, and so now still maintaining the lead by just barely a couple of meters here. Breizhurect are going to have to walk the bot back around. Lots of ultimates expended here, but we find ourselves in a very similar situation. Both teams with sound barrier and Silver holding on to this overclock. I feel like there's a lot of times we've seen Silver holding this one potentially for a little too long here, looking for opportunity.
Early beat from Happy Yeehaw starting this engagement off here as we do have the response beat out from Dr. Unicorn, and there's nothing at all to keep you safe from that Death Blossom. 2 kills before being taken down by Silver. That is again a trade you will gladly take for Breizhurect there, as GG once again still holding on to this overclock, but they're finding themselves further and further chased back to their spawn.
Yeah. And now chase back to the Swan, like you said here, with the forward spawns as well here. GG is going to be looking for a response. Silver has the overclock, but already just going in and taking the Drunken Queen out of the fight.
I mean, an early pin there, that is not at all where you want to find yourself at Breizhurect. I'm guessing Captain Erwan thought they could find a bit of a flank angle on it, but immediately being spotted out by Ono Senpai, I mean, that's just absolutely devastating for this fight. That being said, they did cap the point, so they do have their forward spawns unlocked here, and a good bit of distance gained over their opponent. So that is certainly well and truly in the hands of Breizhurect here. That is a good spot to find yourself in.
Yeah, and they're just going to keep going.
Yeah, keeping going, but unfortunately this engagement, once again, a little bit shorter-lived as opposed to the previous one. Despite spending, again, that barrage at the very end of that engagement, AKZ just not able to find anything for your trouble. Silver is back here on the Soldier 76, so clearly wanting to knock that far out of the sky, as AKZ will swap twice now here over to the Tracer. Better, I would say, than that Junkrat.
Exactly, so now with GG back on their side of the map here, both teams have really cleaned out the ultimate. Vang, Breizhurect are coming up towards that Kitsune rush, which could be helpful here, but somebody's got to get over to this objective, and if AKZ already missing, it seems as though forward spawns are now going to be on the other foot.
Yeah, Happy Yeehaw as well, I should mention, is here on the Kiriko. So just a few swaps coming through from GG. Turns out to be exactly what they need to break open the members of Breizhurect here. So much consistent damage. I'm just watching Captain Erwan eat so many of these soldier bullets and rockets coming through. And there's really nothing you can do, because once again, we find ourselves in a position of no shielding, no barriers, nothing at all you can do. But that rush coming through might be just enough to force the members of GG back here. Breizhurect, though, they're forcing themselves forward, but with that blizzard coming out from Mata, freezing up Captain Erwan. That is not at all where you want to find yourself there as a Junker Queen. AKZ is also back on this Soldier as Breizhurect are making more adaptations, more swaps coming through. Captain Erwan here onto this Diva as the lead was gained by GG at the end of that engagement.
Yeah, able to take the lead, and now it's going to be an early recontest with another Earthshatter to boot, as well as your own Kitsune Rush to back it up here. Breizhurect certainly, a little bit lost in terms of the composition and what it's going to accomplish right now, as it feels like everybody's firing on their own individual cylinders here. This panic could be something that bites them in the butt here, as we're already looking at the engagement in the center.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we already witnessed that Diva falling down before the Reinhardt hammer just on Suravasa. So to swap to that particular pick, of course, you want to deal with Silver, but maybe not the cost of your tank here. If the rush comes through and the barrier out from Dr. Unicorn should be keeping Breizhurect alive for just a few moments longer here, and crucially keeping the members of GG from benefiting from that Kitsune rush. Layered down as it was, they were still forced all the way back there. That shatter rather is enough to clean up Tara next, and Ono Senpai though does get taken down by AKZ. Again, this consistent damage from the Soldier on either side, but Silver's the one with that Tat Visor ready to go. AKZ though does find the better of their opposite here, and Breizhurect, I mean, again, it's a Frankenstein comp, but it seems to be working out for them. They're about to take the lead.
Yeah, being able to retake the lead here is massive, and now that being said, they weren't able to get over the line. The respawns were there, and now it's going to be a bit of a regroup effort, but you do have the forward spawns now, so everybody should be ready to fight on this corner here, as both soldiers are going to be looking for an angle to pop these tactical visors.
Both teams in kind of desperation mode. We're finding a lot of messy plays here. These fights are really looking a little bit looser as we get further in here. That blizzard coming through is not enough, unfortunately, as GG are still pushed back. No one really caught up at all by that Mei ultimate there. So they're having to fall back. A bit of a misfire, a bit of a mistake play coming through as Breizhurect are just able to get those finishing. Oh, the late stagger kill onto Ono Senpai. I mean, that's got them the lead. And honestly, looking back, this might be the end of the map here.
it certainly could be that moment here. There are still opportunities, though. Over 2 minutes in the bank to work with, and the Reinhardt back in the fight quick as you like here. Silver now with the one with the tactical visor here has to be the difference maker, but when you've got a diva on you, it's going to be 10 times harder to find value.
Erewhon does have that remech available. Of course, Diva Bomb is potential here on that high ground. It's really hosing you down with that D-Matrix. Not really a ton of value to be gained here from Silver with that tac visor. The rush out yet again here from Happy Yeehaw starting off this engagement. The bomb comes through from Captain Erewhon, cleans up Mata Mata outside of it, as it were. And so just able to get back into the mech there, but just getting away with your life as that Shatter lays down onto you, getting D-Mech yet again. Ono Senpai has just been running forward, running roughshod over this Diva coming out from Captain Erewhon here. So despite some heroics, despite getting the lead, it is Breizhurect on the back foot now as GG are back in control with a minute and a half to go.
Minute and a half to work with here, and it's certainly a doable position. They do have the title blast ready to go as well here. If you could just send somebody like Ono Senpai in sort of like a massive bowling ball to knock down all the pins that are the enemy team, it could be the opening you need here, and Ono Senpai more than happy to use that pin in an aggressive manner.
I mean, that early pick onto Dr. Unicorn, absolutely devastating, but still a pick return onto Happy Yeehaw. Ooh, but yeah, finishing up, we are trading blow for blow here. Really getting the benefit on the side of GG, though, is without that sound barrier they're about to have online for Dr. Unicorn. I mean, that's going to allow so much more distance to be gained here for GG, and this is exactly the most crucial point for them when they're in this high ground position. They're having to push uphill, so they really do not want to deal with this massive control being had by Breizhurect. Does get stunned out, pinned up, as Captain Erewhon gets taken for a ride yet again by Ono Senpai. No defenses really against this Reinhardt. That being said, both support ults being spent for Breizhurect, and they're really not getting a ton of value for their money here. Tac visor as well from AKZ, but nothing at all. Just shoot out with a Maywall in your way, and we're witnessing GG come back yet again from a deficit, and despite a touch here on the objective, yeah, AKZ falls down, and with 20 seconds left to go, it looks as though we have found themselves almost in the lead. They're trickling here from their spawn point onto the objective. We're watching them fall apart piece by piece, and they finally gain the lead to GG with 7 seconds left to go.
And Breizhurect now, I mean, they've completely drained their ult bank. They've got nothing to work with, and they're having to try to get out just for stall touches here in the face of a Shatter and a Visor.
Yeah, I mean, just watching this Wrecking Ball ping pong a little bit, this is clearly not at all a comfortable position or pick to be had here for Captain Erewhon. Just trying to force everyone off the objective for a few seconds is all you need for that overtime wick, but turns out it is not to be. And who could have thought it, Megalas? Coming into this map, looking at the choices that we made along the way, the map 4 goes the way of GG. We are 2-2 in the series, looking down the barrel of a reverse sweep if GG have their way. And Breizhurect, maybe they've got it all under control. Maybe this is exactly according to plan. But if we do not see a map 5 victory, if we see this reverse sweep come to fruition, they're going to be kicking themselves over this one.
Kicking themselves is certainly the words I would use, potentially something more vulgar, but again, it's just a very interesting sort of situation that we ended up finding ourselves in there, where that was preventable, right? You had the opportunity to ban the Reinhardt ban, you know they're playing Reinhardt, you just take it away from them, and instead you choose to ban the Zarya. I don't know if you believed you could beat them at their own game or what, things like that, but Breizhurect, I mean, with all due respect, I mean, it just looked incredibly sloppy and uncharacteristic from what we've seen from them all series long. It felt like there was just such pressure, such momentum, there's such a frenzy behind them that they sort of just lost their bearings there. And so now they need to try to regroup and lock back in as GG has all the momentum behind them.
But folks, we're going to take a final break before we head into our final map of the series. Do not go anywhere. Map 5 between these two teams here in our finals comes up just after this. Welcome back, folks. We are here for our final map in this series. These grand finals are mid-season tournament here, Diamond Division, between GG versus Breizhurect. It has been quite a road this series getting here, Megalas, and honestly, some deserved L's, some unforced L's being had here, but we've achieved this point either way. It is 2-2, and this one's going to decide it all.
Yeah, I mean, reverse sweeps are always a fun and on the cards, and we might be in the midst of one right now here. It seemed like GG was down and out at our first break here, but they had a resurgence on Saravasa, and then potentially due to a handout from Breizhurect on push, they are now heading into map 5 here, and certainly the pressure is on both these squads now, as this is finally it. There's no more opportunity beyond this. You have to win this map to win the series.
Yeah, so we'll see exactly what we want to look at coming into this, but our final map of the series, of course, we've winnowed down the potential options that we have available to you, but yeah, so it's no more of the rest that we got to see. We got to see them go head-to-head, of course, on Control. We got to see all the way through to Saravasa, where it flipped into the favor of GG, and now for our final map in the series, it is Circuit Royale. So again, we're looking at a classic, well, of course, newer in that case, but in terms of escort, yeah, it's about as classic a type as you can possibly get here. Really has all the archetypes of a fantastic escort map, but I'm curious to see how exactly GG want to approach this one, of course. They have running with that Reinhardt that they're so known for, if it's allowed. If it is allowed, I'm gonna scream a little bit and maybe cry a little bit more. But that's gonna be difficult on your approach. And so this might not even be a map where you want to run Reinhardt in the first place. So even if we get that ban out from Breizhurect, might be kind of a feels bad man situation. I don't know.
Yeah, it feels bad man indeed here, but Circuit Royale, this is going to be a pretty dynamic change up from the rest of the series. Tons of high grounds, lots of hit scan, pressure to potentially take over the map here for both squads, right? So it is going to be interesting to see who's more prolific in some of these hit scan battles, potentially even going for, you know, picks and things like that to open up or clean up fights can be the difference maker on a map like Circuit here. It's very dynamically different. And Breizhurect with the first set of bans here. Please, Breizhurect, don't ego it. That's all I can say. Like, with all due respect, you know, not in terms of a bias, but like, it's very clear that you're going against the Reinhardt team. Just ban the Reinhardt.
Please love yourself. Please consider yourself. We are banned. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So the ban first. All right. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Exactly what we want to go with. Genji, or no, rather on the side of. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Right? Yeah. No, I'm not looking at that right. We're looking at a Genji ban out. No, that's from the previous one. We haven't got it yet. We haven't got it yet. My bad.
Okay, so Zenyatta ban. So this means we're not doing classic sort of poke shenanigans where it's like a Sigma mirror with a BAP Zen. This very classic, very old age poke comps, if you will. More than likely to see BAP Wu Yang potentially even things like Akiri Baptiste also on the table, of course. But it's very interesting that we're going to these very poke heavy bans. Because I'm going to just be so real, GG is just not going to play poke. They're going to play this Reinhardt comp. They've shown that they could go to Watchpoint Gibraltar and play this comp still. And it's just very, very interesting to see that Breizhurect really is not taking that into account at all in terms of their bans. They're thinking in terms of the map geometry versus what they're actually seeing against themselves in game here. But again, map 5, high pressure situation for these squads here, and going into the series is exactly what we expected for it to go map 5, but yeah, just interesting to say the least.
Yeah, I think that is the nicest way we could possibly put that, of course. Yeah, it really feels that Breizhurect are playing a numbers game when the game right in front of them is just being upended at every possible stage. Despite, of course, being a team that seems to favor, you know, playing these diva compositions, their success in this series has revolved around playing these queen-based compositions in particular, especially looking at King's Row, how fast and how blistering they were able to play with those double speed support line. And it felt like in the latter half of the series, they've been just sort of, I mean, of course, they couldn't play Queen on Saravasa. That is not entirely within their control. But they're getting themselves taken apart here by this Reinhardt on compositions that, you know, on paper should work for them. But they're only playing against Reinhardt. They need to fully understand and, you know, process what they're running into, as opposed to, like you're saying, what on paper you should be running on this, you know, on these teams here. If we see GG on anything but Reinhardt's, yeah, color me shocked, color me surprised here, but you've given them the option, you've given them the opportunity to run that, and why would they do anything else when it's clear that you're going to let them run roughshod over you if you're not careful about it, if you're not paying full respect to the comp you've been seeing running over you in the latter half of the series?
Exactly here. So as we get into things on Circuit Royale, I'm interested to see what exactly is going to be cooked up, and we've gone to Circuit Royale just to play more Brawl. I'm flummoxed will be the nice way I put this, but at the end of the day, it's their choice and they can do as they please here. Breizhurect, very interested to see how aggression is going to work on Circuit Royale, especially with Silver definitely going to be trying to take some interesting angles, as we've seen all series long with the Sojourn here, but being careful of things like that. Again, it's just going to be very interesting to see how this plays out in a Brawl mirror here on Circuit.
Yeah, on first offense, we have GG coming through. Matamata here on this sim, so able to bring the rest of the team with you wherever you go, functionally here. And Silver gets that early kill on to Dr. Unicorn. Rodark falling down as well. And that's the first fight. Defense crumbling already here. Captain Erwan is able to keep themselves alive for a few moments longer, but what good is that when the rest of your team is all in pieces around you there? Does get a kill into Silver, but there really is no penalty at all of spawn time for the offense here. And yeah, finally that cart is already moving here. And Breizhurect, I mean, I don't know how the defense is going to answer this on offense when you want to play on the cart with them.
Yeah, and so now trying to see how this defense, how it's going to work, because in practice it's already coming apart here because of the amount of mobility that they have thanks to the symmetric teleporter. Breizhurect, again, it's going to be about all inning with your Junker Queen and not leaving Captain Erwan on an island isolated.
Yeah, and they're doing their very best here, but just take so much damage at the start of these engagements here. That shout was just enough to keep you alive for a few moments longer here. But again, no shields, nothing at all to withstand this immense pressure coming through from Silver, Matamata, and of course Ono Senpai there with that hammer. There is nothing that Breizhurect can do to stop that hammer coming down on top of your skull, except perhaps getting a bunch of kills there with Rodark. That turns out to be just enough of an answer, so very well played on the rotation there for the defense. That turns out to be the close hold that they really needed to keep Breizhurect alive and keep an early spawn cap from coming their way.
Yeah, so being able to hold point A here, having a second lease on life on point A is massive for the defense here. Although already down your Sojourn is not how you want that defense to start.
Yep, that shatter is going to pretty much clean things up here. A nice solid sweep coming out from Ono Senpai, not having to spend anything else in that fight. Coming into this next engagement with 3 and a good bit on that fourth ultimates. 4.5 minutes on this offense left here on point B for GG here. Breizhurect, I mean, they've got ults, they've got positioning, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, granted, those are two important things to have here, as we're seeing already. The general contest of the high ground, right? It's sort of daring the defenders to take some of the space back across the map here. As you said, Breizhurect coming into this with a heavy amount of ultimates. The question is, how much do they have to invest to actually be able to come away with the fight win?
Tidal Blast coming out from Bum, but it's the massive damage coming out from Breizhurect, spending only that window so far. Hopefully they hold on to everything else as this engagement winds down here, just cleaning up the massive bang at the very start there. Despite the spend of that Tidal Blast, really all that GG had to work with there, so fortunately they've got plenty to work with in this next engagement, but that is now high ground positioning comfortably in Breizhurect's favor.
Yeah, and now, like you said, with it being in Breizhurect's favor here, they do have some opportunities for what they should use next fight here. Again, it should just be a quick and clean rampage fight, as long as they're not going to be caught in a teleporter or something like that. Forcing that out is going to be the big thing.
Early beat and teleporter, yep, just behind the members of Breizhurect, forces the beat out from Dr. Unicorn as well. But Captain Erwan crucially does find that sim pick, who lets loose with that sim wall. Mata used that ultimate there, and there's really looking a bit sheepish there, hanging over the objective as that wall slowly fades from existence there. And yeah, once again, really solid approach and rotation out from Breizhurect on the defense.
And so now, you know, GG on the other side of things, realizing they might have to rethink their approach. They've gotten rid of the Lucio, added the Kiri back into the mix, and this is definitely going to put a wrench in the plans for this Rampage here. Now actually going to be important to force out that cleansing Suzu before trying to run through everybody as the overclock's already being ripped.
Ono Senpai building up towards another shatter yet again, and once more, no real answers for that on the side of Breizhurect, as just so often is the case. They don't have any clear finish to this Reinhardt here, but Captain Erwan still has this Rampage, still hungry to use it. As you're saying, just trying to force out that Suzu first. Let's loose the carnage. That Tidal Blast, though, surges forward. Mata is trying to put in the damage and stun onto the members of Breizhurect. Gets two! Oh, the massive shatter coming out. GG is just feasting for days here. And it turns out when you were ulting on the back line, there was no one there to ult, as the rest of GG are just forcing out themselves all the way forward here, cleaning up the staggering members of Breizhurect and taking point B in still pretty comfortable time fashion.
Yeah, you saw the desperate touch try to come through there, and unfortunately it just results in more staggers. So GG going to be able to continue rolling forward here now with another overclock. Silver has that one lined up and ready to go here, and the most high ground pivotal point of the map here to utilize it on here. So obviously you see the attackers on this forward high ground for the time being, but they have the opportunity to rotate around to the poolside high ground should they so choose, as it currently seems like the entire defense is currently staging themselves to set up just for a cart fight down main.
Yeah, not a whole lot of pressure being put onto GG. You're absolutely right. And so having to worry about this long rotation coming through, really giving all the room in the world as Silver has this overclock, can always move wherever you possibly want to. AKZ, of course, on this Reaper is your flank potential for the side of Breizhurect, but GG is able to force everyone back there with that Mei wall, trying to keep someone alive, trying to find a pick there with that Reinhardt, but into that window coming out from Tyrannex turns out to be enough pressure to force the members of GG back. Cleaning up Ono Senpai does mean that essentially this fight is well and truly over here for GG. So they've got themselves all the way to this corner here on point C before finally being stopped for just a moment.
Being stopped for the moment indeed here, but still more work to be done. GG having both support ultimates. AKZ is lurking. I don't think you were actually spotted, AKZ, but you decided the pop shots into the Reinhardt was worth your position, so go for it.
Yeah, this Death Blossom still looking for a chance to use it. AKC takes a bunch of damage on that teleport approach into the window, so let's get healed up, buying precious seconds there for GG to put down the pressure on the objective. The beat comes through from Dr. Unicorn, but no tank alive as Captain Erwan is already down here, and that's going to be the go button here for Ono Senpai. Has this shatter, can easily just shut the door here on the defensive of Breizhurect as Rodark falls down yet again here. We are just losing fight after fight on this defense. It turns out that you can do your very best to try and hold down the fort, but when you've got this Reinhardt completely unleashed, this entire composition rushing through on GG, there's so little you can do to actually put a stop to their aggression here. And there we go with 57 seconds left in the bank. That is a full map completion on Circuit Royale for GG. Breizhurect's defense, there were moments of brilliance, but they were only that. They were just moments here. That was dominant coming through from GG's offense.
Yeah, it's absolutely what they had to do here to sort of, again, keep the tempo and momentum in their favor. Now Breizhurect, who initially found themselves with the lead in this series, can definitely feel it starting to slip out of their control more and more here. And they're going to have an incredibly difficult time continuing to pilot this Junker Queen, specifically on this map, right? The sight lines are so incredibly long here. The Reinhardt's holding space for the rest of the team to really find value in things of that nature. And being able to use the symmetric teleporters as well to sort of create diversions and get people across the map as needed. It's something that GG clearly prides themselves on. This is the composition they know they need here. And Breizhurect potentially going for a change of pace, trying to go over to a standard poke Very interesting approach here. It's going to be about keeping GG at arm's length, making sure that Reinhardt is staying far, far away, and making sure Silver is not allowed free time to just find these shots on the Sojourn here. That being said, they're still pivoting in the spawn room, clearly indecisive of what they actually feel is the answer to what they're hitting right now.
Yeah, it really feels like the decisiveness of GG is what's allowed them to stay so strong in the latter stages of this series here. Rolling out on this Diva comp once again. We've talked about how we're not really fond of this into this Ryan comp that GG has been running here. Breizhurect are sort of hamstringing themselves coming into these engagements here. We'll see if now this time, with so much more high ground potential to play around, they've gotten a chance to work with here. Of course, it's a very different map from Suravasa, but this is still the same composition that GG has been running through most of this series here. Mata back on the sim, trying to get those teleports, those long-range plays coming through. Tons of work you can do here on the defense, whether it's retreating or aggressing directly onto that back line. So much to be worried about here, but Happy Yeehaw is still trying to farm those kunais, getting a bunch of ult charge into the bargain as well. As Breizhurect, of course, AKZ is still here on this Genji, so the famed hero pick for this player. We'll see if it is able to pull out those clutch moments, but we're really just kind of poking and prodding here from both sides. Not a ton of value being gained, but finally a kill comes through as Rodar cleans up Mata in this fight, this long-going engagement here. No rotational abilities on the side of GG for the rest of this fight here. Mata's got a little bit of time to come back into the fight. Bum gets himself forced out a little bit as Captain Erwan is in the back line, but unfortunately eating so much damage trying to get back to the rest of the team here. The card is finally pushing around this corner. Here's really the last point that GG can defend themselves around here on this defense, and AKZ finds pay dirt here, taking Silver out of the fight, and the support's getting so heavily pressured out on the side of GG here. As Breizhurect are forcing themselves all the way forward here. We're really seeing Captain Erwan get tons of value out of this Diva, very differently than we've seen in the previous maps of this series here on that hero. AKZ does fall down to those Sim turrets, but there's still a ton of pressure able here from Breizhurect. Now losing Rodark and that mech out from Captain Erwan, that is going to spell the retreat bells just shy of first point cap.
Very similar situation that GG found themselves in. Breizhurect now find themselves in a similar position here. They do have the orbital ray to walk forward with. They were able to get the support ultimates out from the side of GG here, but worrying about that sim wall as well as the earth shatter here. Now that you're on a more mobile comp, hopefully nobody ends up getting pinned down by this one, but of course all it takes is one target being hit by that earth shatter and followed up on to really turn the fight in GG's favor.
Dark eats a bunch of damage there, but is able to get healed up and about to have that overclock online. Plenty of ultimates here for both sides. Crucially, though, as you mentioned, no support ult on the side of GG. That Shadow, though, they want to go fast, but falling Mata first in this fight does manage to let loose with that sim wall, but more kills coming the way of Breizhurect there as GG are able to find a bunch of value here on this side engagement here, just viewing over the city and just finding the chance here to rotate around as Breizhurect do get the better of Ono Senpai. So enough members still alive here from Breizhurect. It looks as though they are finally going to find themselves here, this cap here onto point A. It was a bit messy. Oh, there's still a bit of a touch coming through as Mata is back here on that Symmetra. The bomb comes out for the Diva, just cleaning up and just forcing back any touching members of GG, but it looks as though that will finally do it with 3:10 on the clock. Breizhurect have kept point A.
And finally, they have a second lease on life here, now being able to assault some of these high grounds. Again, it's about getting this teleporter out and then using the go buttons that you have after the fact here. You do have AKZ with the Dragon Blade locked and loaded here, of course. You also have Dr. Unicorn with the Sound Barrier to provide help for any situation that comes up, really. But it might need to be used in tandem with AKZ here to keep him alive.
Ooh, bit of a naked blade out here from AKZ, is able to put in a bunch of damage, and yeah, the cleanup kills are there as Rodark and Captain Erwan, everyone else also on board, getting these kills here at the end of the day. This fight was truly the entirety a team effort here out from Breizhurect. Despite the blade being the go button, everyone else was there and ready. Payload is inching its way across the high ground here, and GG, I mean, they really didn't have anything they could do in that fight.
Nothing you can do in that fight, but they're going to get a recontest here at the very end of the point. They're going to have the Tidal Blast as well as the Overclock here. It's going to be about getting some space for Silver and letting Silver try to open up the map.
Charge comes through from Ono Senpai, still eats so much damage, including the overclock rail shots out from Rodark. I mean, that is going to be a really solid engagement here from Breizhurect, and that is going to, once you get the straggling members off the cart, just as before, that's going to clean themselves up here for point B. Looking pretty solid coming into this, actually setting the same pace that GG did on their offense.
Similar pace, but different approaches here. So now we have to see how it's going to go here. Swaps on both sides. Mata going to be back on to the Mei pick here. Instead of the Sojourn, not valuing the teleporter as much, instead looking for those isolations. Meanwhile, AKZ off of the Genji, which was doing so well, I guess, in fear of the Mei. He's going to pull out the Junkrat here. A lot of spam damage, but also not a lot of focus fire in terms of where that damage can go.
Yeah, and Silver cleaning up Rodark early on here. You've got this sort of high ground off angle being run here by both of these Sojourns, and only one of them comes out the victor. Well, that being said, Captain Air One is still there and gets the cleanup, the finish, the revenge kill onto Silver, but loses your mech in the process. Yeah, that's going to be this one. I say that, and the remaining members of Breizhurect are still fighting on that high ground, on that flank. GG was on the point, kind of wondering where the party was going to start, but it turns out they were dying somewhere around the pool, as we do have the cart moving forward now from Breizhurect.
Moving forward into an Earth Shatter, looming for the defense, as well as Silver still holding this overclock. Silver the entire series long been holding these just a tad too long, trying to find perfect opportunities when there's so many better ones.
Yeah, an early kill there onto Silver. That overclock in hand is absolutely devastating there. Yeah, as you say, we've seen that all series long from them, unfortunately. That Shatter ready to go and let's loose here onto the members of Breizhurect, but really finding very little value this time, uncommonly here for Ono Senpai. Really kind of having to hit the panic buttons here on the side of GG, as finally that overclock does run through. We do get kills coming out from Silver, but will it be enough there as that Riptire does pop? Happy Yeehaw, no chance for that Kiriko to get any more value in this engagement here. That Tidal Blast is out. AKZ falling before the predations of Bum. It turns out there is still enough fight left in this defense here. They are not done just yet.
Defense holds, both teams completely drained the ult bank, so we've reset now completely across both squads here. It's going to be a raw fight heading forward here with just over a minute on the clock. Breizhurect still needs the full cap just to send us into extra innings here, whereas GG, again, you know, these are about 2 fights that you're going to have to try to live through. If you can find one pick, it can be the opening your defense needs to finally get the hold.
Massive dive coming through from Captain Erwan. The Maywall is right behind you, though, so the rest of the team is trying to follow in on, but it's much more difficult here. These choke points are something you really have to be very conscious of, and of course there is that ever-looming specter of a Reinhardt pin coming through, but Silver does get the better of Rodark, so there's a pause coming through as well. So the momentum will be paused for just a moment here, folks, as we have that Sojourn duel resolved in these final, 39 seconds, potentially, of this series, awaiting us on the other side of this pause.
Yeah, I mean, we unfortunately kind of saw it there firsthand, right? It was clear the Diva was in the midst of a disconnect, unfortunate timing. But at the end of the day, what can you do here? You still have some time on the bank. The attackers are definitely going to need a regroup here, unless you can come up with some picks within the next second or two to really get everybody together for this final fight situation you find yourselves in. And again, you know, I'm just sort of looking at this Breizhurect squad, you know, finally having their identity shown here, but they are starting to meet a staunch iron wall here at the very end of point 3.
Yeah, I mean, we saw with how quickly that GG were able to make their offense roll all the way through and capping with nearly a minute in the time bank, which again, with as long as this map in particular is not always a given. We see teams stopping on point B pretty often here on their offense, so quite a feat to get this far into it. But we're seeing a similar, you know, tempo, a similar speed, similar power coming through. But even if a cap does come through, even if they do get all the way to the end of point C, their time bank is already guaranteed to be lesser than their opponent in the mirror, and that's not even a guarantee at this point. So 30 seconds left in the map here for Breizhurect offense. Yeah, GG are trying to find themselves steady here on this outer flank. AKZ is back here on the Ash, so a sneaky swap late in the game. Want to find a pick here. That Dynamite can put in so much work on these grouped up compositions here. The cart essentially largely forgotten as it's rolling forward here into the final stages of the map, and the rest of Breizhurect fall down to the objective here as GG have their attention pulled and focused all the way back on the cart here. That Hard doing an excellent job framing those little water blasts coming through out of Bum as the Diva Bomb goes up. Let's see if it comes down to find very little, but the remake kill onto Ono Senpai is absolutely crucial here not at all a place you want to find yourself. Of course, the Reinhardt, you have to be on the objective. There's nothing you can do to deal with that massive damage coming through. And we do have that Blizzard, though, out from Matamata. Things are not done just yet here. Everyone remaining on the point for Breizhurect is locked up. Captain Air One falling down yet again as well. Matamata might have just clinched this up with a single ultimate, but that orbital raid comes out from Tyrannex here, keeping the rest of the members of Breizhurect alive here on the point. This is their last possible chance, and they are just ticking down this overtime wick, burning so much faster here. The beat comes through. Happy Yeehaw does not have one left to go here as Rodark does fall down. No one's on the cart, and despite the remaining members of the team rushing back from spawn on the side of Breizhurect, there is nothing you can do in the face of that overwhelming defense. GG, Gelderse Geitjes have won the series, won the tournament here. They are your victors here in our Diamond Division. Incredible play from this defense, incredible running down with this Reinhardt composition all series long. Kudos to GG's here.
Yeah, pulling off the reverse sweep, being able to complete it with a nail biter there to end it on Circuit Royale, but GG certainly pulling their punches. They know what they want to play, this Reinhardt style, and you know, even being able to survive through some maps where parts of the strategy were targeted, they were still able to live and do what was needed to be done and get the full reverse sweep here. Absolutely amazing from the side of them. Breizhurect plays a close series, but unfortunately, close is all you can contend with for right now.
Yeah, again, there was such a strong start to the series. We saw how close these teams were matched on Busan there, the very first map of the series itself. And then, of course, Breizhurect looking really strong on King's Row. It just, once the control of the maps and functionally, and control of the compositions was fully in GG's favor, they kind of ran away with it. And perhaps, as we talked about, maybe you wanted to get that Reinhardt band in there in one of those final two maps for Breizhurect, maybe, but you didn't. And so that Reinhardt comp was allowed to just run riot over the rest of their opposition there. And looking really solid when doing so. I really did feel like GG looked better and better as the series went on, despite how close even that first map was.
Yeah, an incredibly close series, and again, just it showcases, right? This is just the mid-season here. You still have so much more season as well as that end of season tournament to play out here, where, you know, I'm willing to make a safe prediction now that both these teams will be prominent players in that final tournament at the end there. But obviously, congrats to both squads here, and while we could sing the praises of GG all day long, I'm sure they can do it much better themselves. So bear with us for just a moment. We're going to throw it to a quick little break, get that all set up with an interview from the side of GG. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Cash and the ticket is yours. Memories.
Welcome back, folks. We just got to see the final map in our 3-2 series, a game 5 here between these two titans of their tournament. But only one was the victor, and of course, that was GG here. So fantastic work out from them. Of course, we have a bit of an interview for you. So we have Mata Mata, of course, our DPS player on the side of GG. So really well played from you, Mata Mata. My first question for you is just, how was it coming into that reverse sweep situation? Once you got to Suravasa, what was the mental like coming into those last maps?
Yeah, thanks. To be fair, we were pretty positive. We've been playing for a while as a group of friends, and we tend to stay really positive. And we've also had quite a few losses in a different tournament, so we're kind of used to it. We really try to keep everybody speaking, keep everything going, and yeah, just keep the spirits high. Just tell ourselves we're going to reverse sweep, and it happened.
Hey, listen, at the end of the day, like you said, having that previous experience certainly can help here. Looking at the series as a whole, though, I obviously want to talk to you about what you guys clearly love to play, this Reinhardt style, whether it's with the Mei or the Sim here. Is this just sort of what you guys have decided on, what you're coaching, or is this just people on comfort picks that's really getting to shine here?
I think it's kind of a combination. We have, of course, our tank player is a Rhine main, has always been a Rhine main, and we kind of wanted to make that work. It started out with kind of having different comps, where we would play him on Rhine and then maybe me on Winston on different comps. We kind of settled over time for this Reinhardt comp. We also have a lot of support players in the group, so someone had to switch to DPS, which eventually was me, so I'm now in Mei Sim Jail. But yeah, we've really been enjoying this, the way we're playing it now.
Hey, listen, it's fair, completely valid, of course, here. And then, you know, I want to be able to shout out, oh, you know, it's fine, we vanished into the ether, that happens. You know, blame the producer is what I like to do, but just pushing right along here. Being able to see, again, what, you know, moving forward in the season, now that you have this extra dub under your belt here, you know, do you guys see yourselves potentially relaxing a little bit more, or is it still just going to be foot on the gas going for the golden stage?
Well, we're really seeing ourselves improve, but also I feel like the other teams are improving as well. So I think we need to keep focus to not you know, slack off while the other teams are getting better. So yeah, we're really trying to keep that focus going, keep the foot on the gas as much as possible, I think. But also enjoy ourselves while we're doing it, of course.
And one more question I have to ask. You probably expected, I assume, to at least have Ryan taken away for one map. What would you have run if, perchance, you did not have the chance to run that Reinhardt comp that was really your key to success?
Well, to be fair, we weren't so sure. It would be map dependent. But our tank player has actually a lot of experience on different heroes as well, outside of Rhine. Maybe a Zarya, maybe a Sigma. But yeah, we were really happy when they didn't ban Rhine, actually. We were kind of surprised they chose to ban Widow, but it was nice. We really enjoyed it.
I mean, it looked solid all the way through and really made the most of it. So really well done, and congratulations yet again to Mata Mata. Anyone you want to shout out before you head out?
Yeah, definitely. I think our support player, Bub, he's crazy on the Wuyang. The numbers he's putting out after the first round of circuit, he was 22-0 and had the most damage in the lobby. That dude's insane.
Absolutely is. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mata Mata. That is GG's done a fantastic job here. The team of Gelderse Geitjes, they have won for your tournament here. Congratulations yet again, and have a great rest of your season.
Thank you. Thanks for casting.
I mean, just like that, another one done, right? Listen, you know, it's always fun to get to hear interviews from the players and stuff like that. You know, because most of the time they're very chill, very cordial. And, you know, we always respect that here at CGL. Camaraderie and stuff, yeah.
You do love to see it. Folks, I think that is going to do it for us here for today's, for at least for this match here today. But there's, of course, so much happening in CGL today, so there's plenty more to be had. I'm sure we'll be able to let you know if there's any coming up right here or in a little bit. But yeah, so thank you all for joining us for this fantastic grand finals between these two titanic teams. We look forward to seeing them and you in the next one.